Two chances remain for a playoff entrance, and what might be one of the toughest combos comes up next over a beautiful California sky, where tonight we welcome you to the stage for race number 7 of season 6 in the Monday Night Racing Pro Series, presented by Interstate Batteries and the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. Glad to have you with us on Podium Esports. My name is Kenneth Bueno, joined alongside by Jacob Hitz. Ryan Bauer will be our producer all night long. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. And from one chaotic race probably to another, Jacob, we have in this MNR season, we are closing in on just the final 2 races, including this one and the next chance at Talladega in a couple of weeks' time, to decide the drivers that will enter the playoff fight for season 6, which means the only one thing is certain: you have to fight all that you can. If you are not close or remotely close to the playoff spot, going to do all that you can in those last 2 races to make sure you're fighting for a championship.
Yeah, we go from car off in turn 2 to trouble spinner in turn 2 tonight. We kind of trade that in from CTMP here to Auto Club Speedway. And Kenneth, this is really, I think, the toughest race left in the regular season. Obviously off next week for the holidays. We're back next year in 2023 for the next gens at Talladega to kind of set the table for the rest of the playoffs. And I really think the race in 2 weeks' time is going to be easy. We've already been to Talladega once this year. The next-gen car, pretty familiar on the plate tracks. So that's not really, I don't think, a track that a lot of drivers have circled. Certainly the guys that are on the bubble, on the playoff line, they're going to be looking at that. Otherwise, can't really say that the race in 2 weeks is a concern. Tonight's the big concern. An unusual combination, not used to the 87s, not used to Auto Club Speedway. Put them together, and you're going to see a bit more of a skill gap tonight, I think, kind of along the lines of what we saw at CTMP a week ago, where you're going to have the guys that are really, really good. You're going to have some guys that are not so good. And depending on who those drivers are, that really could shake up the playoffs, the playoff picture at least, going into the race next week. Obviously, whoever wins this race tonight, if they haven't gone to victory lane already, will lock themselves in to the playoffs. And that just leaves really one more seat at the table to win, and you're in by the time we get to Talladega in 2 weeks.
It's a situation, Jacob, where you don't want to have your back against the wall going to Talladega, because we know how crazy Talladega is in its own right. With the next gens, we've seen super speedway racing in that form in MNR quite recently, so you don't want to put yourself in that hole, and you want to make sure you can at least capitalize on what is, like you said, one of the toughest combos. Last week we had a very tough combo, next gens at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. A lot of drivers off track, a lot of mistakes, a lot of shakeups in the point standings. We'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward in our broadcast of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. Now, if you're noticing one thing off of our 2-shot here in the broadcast booth, Blake McCandless, our play-by-play announcer, is not here tonight, but that's not because he's missing. That's because he's taking a very unique role in our broadcast tonight on Podium Esports. He is not necessarily trading the headset for the wheel. He's putting both on and saying, why not? He's going to be our in-race reporter for tonight's race from Auto Club. We'll be talking through it with him over the course of the race. We'll get his perspective in a car that he very much enjoys. And we will bring in our play-by-play announcer and our fellow commentator in the booth, Blake McCandless, who will be taking that wheel of a 1987 car this evening from Auto Club. Blake McCandless, welcome to our broadcast on Podium Esports. First of all, it's weird to say this because usually you're joined alongside us. This time you're on track, and one of the combos that, since the drop of the schedule, we talked about it, one that has eluded you for a while. Why is that the case?
I just love these cars, Kenneth. They're the most fun car, at least to me in iRacing, to run, because they require such a unique skill set. They're tough. The tires fall off. These cars don't want to do anything well. They don't want to stop well. They don't want to turn well. And I just love that about stock car racing. So this was a combo pretty much as soon as it came out. I was kind of, putting the message out there to Ford, hey, let me run this, let me run this, let me run. And then as we got to the week, I'm like, hey, I really want to run this race and be a lot of fun. So I was given the green light, and we'll see what we can do tonight. Should be a really good race, and I'm really optimistic with how practice has gone that we're going to be able to run multiple grooves, and it's going to be a good time.
I know you're somewhat regarded as a master of these 87 cars on the iRacing service, but a lot of these guys in MNR competition, it's the first time they see it all season long. In fact, it's been a while since we've seen these cars in Monday Night Racing. So what do you make of the competition you'll see on track tonight, and how you feel you're going to try and weave through all of them if you want to get the checkered flag?
Well, it takes somebody who has a lot of experience in this car to do really well, I think, or experience definitely pays off. Even with restarts, I mean, just having the experience of, you have to press the clutch in these cars. There's no magic. There's no clutchless transmission on these cars. So that's one thing that I think a lot of drivers who run this will have to watch out for, that, they're making sure that their shifts are good, and we'll probably see a couple of missed shifts. But I think we're capable of moving forward. We're going to have to run everywhere. I'm going to start in the back of this race, so we're going to use the bottom, we're going to use the middle, we're going to use the top. So we're just going to have to find any way to try to get by these cars, and we're going to do it early. I'm going to be respectful, though. I know a lot of these guys, they're trying to make their way into the playoffs and trying to win a championship here. So we're definitely going to try to be as courteous as we can, but make no doubt about it, Kenneth. I'm here to compete. I'm here to try and win tonight.
I believe
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
there we go.
I got
Yep,
I got you, Jacob.
There you go.
Voice meters testing my patience tonight. Anyway, you talked about something I think that not a lot of drivers or not a lot of analysts would think about, shifting, the fact that you have to use the clutch here. What about green flag pit stops, the rarest of jewels in Monday Night Racing? I can't imagine it's easy getting this thing to go from 160 mile an hour or higher to 55 to get to pit road speed.
No, this car has a lot of rear brake in it too, with the with the setup that we have. So it's really easy to get out of shape. Auto Club, you can carry so much speed on the pit road, but again, the brakes on this car, they don't work very well. So you have to really get these things slowed down, woed down. It's a long race, 100 laps, probably 2 stopping it, because we can go anywhere about 39 to 40 laps on fuel. So you're definitely going to have to stop twice. Really don't think you're going to be able to stretch it into a one stop. You can maybe try, but you'd have to be saving a ton to make that happen. But I'm optimistic. A lot of these combos, when we have the ability to run a lot of different grooves, even things outside of the 87 cars as a broadcaster, we've been able to have really good racing, and I think we'll have that tonight. So I'm looking forward to it, especially in 3 and 4. I think that end of the racetrack is really wide open in terms of where you want to run and where you feel comfortable. But they did a good job with the setup, and I'm just ready to get going. I haven't raced with most of these people ever before, so it'll be good to get alongside them and hopefully have some fun tonight.
Surely it's going to be a lot of fun. And though we do have you on camera, we've got your car on track. So if you do win, we need a special celebration. We need something crazy. We do. Definitely.
All right. We'll think of something.
All right. Get the ideas rolling, Blake. We'll send you back on track. We'll let you get some more practice laps before this race begins here from Auto Club. Thank you for joining us. So we'll talk to you throughout the race.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth and Jacob. Let's get it done.
See, it's kind of weird, Jacob, isn't it? I mean, Blake is a driver and a broadcaster tonight. He gets to do the best of both worlds. I'm a little bit jealous. I'm not good enough to be a driver by any stretch of the imagination, but that is definitely very cool. We'll talk to Blake over the race. We'll get his insights, and we'll get a little special vantage point of what it's like to drive this car around this competition at this track. Speaking of tracks and combos, Jacob will take a look at our season success schedule, what we have left to complete before this season is over on February 13th. We did talk about our race tonight, Auto Club 1987 cars. We have a little bit of a break for the holiday season, for Christmas and all that. Then we'll return January 2nd in 2023 for Talladega with the next gen cars, a combo that will return from last season's edition of this series. But Jacob, if you're a majority of the playoff field, especially those with wins, you're thinking about that playoff stretch. You're immediately thinking about super late models at Richmond and what follows after that.
Even though the points reset, Kenneth, I think some guys are thinking a little bit about this week and the race in 2 weeks' time, solely because the more wins you get, the more playoff points you get going into the playoffs. Now everything resets, but you still get a bonus for winning a race. And we saw that with Anthony Alfredo last season, where he was coming in and being atop the standings because he won 2 or 3 races. Same thing with Presley Sora. And we haven't had a repeat winner up until this point. So there are a lot of points on the table for guys like Chase Cabry, David Schildhouse, who have gone to victory lane once already this year, are looking to do it again. And then you've got guys that have been out front pretty much all season, like an Adam Cabot, like a Colin Fern. And as you take a look at the points right there, that cut line back to 12th is so close right now. And we'll really have to see how everything pans out, because right now, you look at Rajah Caruth, who's in 14th place with the drop after last week's race at CTMP. He's not able to make it tonight because folks traveling for the holidays and what have you, so he can't be here to run. His drop then becomes tonight. The drop before tonight was the Daytona Road Course, where he finished last. He had 1 point to his name. So he's only getting 1 point out of this entire weekend, where other guys that may have to use their drop tonight, they may be getting anywhere from 20 to 30 points extra. So we'll see how everything pans out. But for Rajah Caruth, he's almost boxing himself into a corner right now, Kenneth, where he has to win at Talladega in 2 weeks in order to even think about those tracks that we saw on the right-hand side of the schedule, like Richmond, Daytona, Watkins Glen, and all.
It makes things very tough, and also you think about Sage Karam, who's below the top 35, and since he hasn't run the entire schedule other than CTMP last week, he's not eligible for the playoffs. It opened the door for everything to happen for this playoff fight. We'll see how it all happens. We've got our stage set here for this next level racing throwback 200. Just before we get into our picks and what we're going to do before the green flag drops here tonight from Auto Club. Jacob, let's look at this Auto Club Speedway located in Fontana, California, similar to the sister track Michigan, which had the stage the last time we raced the 87s in Monday Night Racing. With this track, although it's shaped the same, although it's built somewhat the same, it is very different in its own right.
And it's the superior version, might I add, to Michigan Speedway. This racetrack, the same distance, 2 miles. The surface, although it's asphalt, it's completely different. Michigan just got repaved, got reconfigured a little bit down in the corners a couple of years ago, back in 2012. This racetrack has not been touched since its inception in 1997. The pavement is old. It is very, very bumpy, very, very rough. One of the oldest surfaces, now I think almost the oldest surface that these drivers have to face throughout the entire season, and the NASCAR drivers have to face throughout the entire season. As far as this racetrack's concerned, 14 degrees of banking. You don't get a lot of help of banking in the corners. So when you go to the high side, when you go to the bottom, you're having to do a lot of slowing down so that way you don't fly off the face of the earth up toward the outside wall and fly out of the racetrack. You don't have a lot of banking like a Bristol, like a Daytona, to keep yourself in the ballpark. And pit speed, as you see, 55 miles an hour. It is a crawl down the pit lane when you're doing close to 180 coming down the back straightaway and going down the front straightaway screaming toward turn 1.
It's a mix of a double threat in a case, Jacob. With that pit road speed limit and these cars as hard as they are to drive, you can get into trouble getting on a pit road, and even if you're not going to pit road at all, you can strike that outside wall if you're a little too eager. A lot of challenges on the plate for the playoff hopefuls and more as we continue our coverage of the next level racing throwback 200 from the virtual Auto Club Speedway for Monday Night Racing Pro Series Racing presented by Interstate Batteries. Don't go anywhere. More on the other side here on Podium Esports.
I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Run for your life. Run for your life.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Mas. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street. Everywhere. Interstate batteries. Outrageously dependable.
visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
Getting closer to dropping the green flag here from the Auto Club Speedway with our Next Level Racing Throwback 200 in Season 6 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. Jacob, it is our favorite time of the night. It used to not be my favorite, but I think after last week at CTMP, I'm starting to have a change of heart. It's our time for picks, and while Blake McCandless is on track tonight, he can bank on himself, but he's going to bank on the one-time winner this season already. David Schildhouse in the number 20 machine got the win at the Xfinity Cars at Legacy, Texas, so he'll go for him. I'm going with Garrett Smithley, former winner already this season at the Talladega Super Speedway. I'm banking on him to go for my second, or his second, but Jacob, we've got Colin Fern in the 86 going for his first in the 87 cars. Why is that?
Well, I got told I couldn't pick Blake McCandless, so I looked at the drivers that I had yet to pick this year. Talladega is a free-for-all, so I could pick just about anybody that shows up next week. And I saw Colin Fern on my list of somebody that I haven't picked. I believe everybody else this year has picked him, so I thought, well, this is as good a track as any. He was high up on the practice charts. So far, based out of qualifying, he looked pretty good too. So I'm kind of liking my pick in the 86. Colin Fern getting it done. And he may have some help, maybe a little strategy down the stretch to put him far out in front. Trying not to completely give away the crystal ball since I am spanking everybody into points so far. We'll see how long that lasts though.
No, you're running away with it. I don't even think I have a chance at this point. Eric Estep going to go with Adam Cabot in the number 17, and if it can happen, Adam Cabot will grab his first win of season number 6. That will fall the same for Colin Fern. So it's somewhat of a split. Drivers going for 2 wins on mine and Blake's picks, and 2 drivers going for their first on the other side of it. We'll step into our race analysis here from the Auto Club Speedway. Before we get to our starting grid, we go for 100 laps, 200 miles, but we will head down trackside and give you your BST Shocks starting grid and the Roasted Gems Coffee Pole Award winner going to Eric Estep's pick, the number 17 of Adam Cabot with a 42.877. He'll be the first to see the green. Josh Balicki in a Darrell Waltrip throwback will be to his outside in row number 1. Last week's winner, Sage Karam, looking to go 2 in a row from Auto Club. He starts inside of row number 2, P3, and Will Rogers in the number 7 on his outside in position number 4. Your pick, Jacob Hicks. Colin Fern rolls off inside the top 5. Nick Olson for Grit Esports will be on the outside in P6. Rolling off 7th will be the 41 and Matt Stallneck. He will be joined by our defending series champion, Presley Sora, in the number 8 car. Justin Malillo will be inside the top 9 in the 53, and Ronnie Osmer, rookie driver, will be inside the top 10.
Rolling off 11th is Garrett Smithley. That's your pick, Kenneth. Reed Wilson lines up on the outside to complete row number 6. James Bickford and Ryan Vargas, 2 drivers that are almost always in the hunt for the playoffs. They need some help tonight. They're in row number 7. Jordan Buster in a different number tonight, a one-night only change. He's in the 46. He lines up 15th. Robbie Lyons, the former champ, lines up in 16th. George Balfans Jr. and Leighton Sabile in 17th and 18th. That's row number 9. Connor Berry and Max Kennan rounding out the top 20.
Parker Villis in the 99 rolls off P21, joined alongside by Josh Slade in P22. Chris Weaver will be 23rd with Joey Padgett alongside in P24. That'll be row number 12. League owner Ford Martin in the 07 rolls off inside the top 25, and he'll have his teammate DJ Cummings alongside him in P26. 27 and 28 go to Case Collenbach and Michael Massey. Seth Eggert is 29th, and Brett Baldeck in the 44 will be inside your top 30 as the final driver to complete a qualifying time, and then come the double in row number 16. Blake McCandless, our in-race reporter, joined alongside by David Schildhouse, Preston Pardish, Chase Cavery, 33rd, 34th, and then the final 3 drivers in our field, or rather 2, Gary Sexton in the 13th, Steve O'Font in the number 11, completing our 36-car field here from Sunset, California, and Fontana. So take a look at our weather. This is exactly what we're going to see. It's just a little over 4 p.m. in sim time on the West Coast. Track temp at 83 degrees, 79 degrees in the air. Wind at 2 miles per hour to the north. No humidity, no fog. It is a beautiful day to go racing. 4 sets of tires in the pits. We'll have 75% on the fuel load. And again, we go for 100 laps and just at the 200-mile mark. Adam Cabot, Josh Balicki, the 17 and the 79. Rev the cars up. We're green in the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 from Auto Club Speedway. 3 and 4 wide racing already at the jump. Three-way battle for second. Sage Karam on the bottom, Colin Fern in the middle, Josh Belicki, who started second, all the way on the high side. The groove's already being used back to turn 1 as Adam Cabot looks to run away to complete lap number 2.
Well, and Cabot was able to run away there, Blake, because, oh, trouble! Belicki gets turned by Colin Fern. 3 cars go spinning to the inside wall. A hard hit for Belicki. He's up and into the air. He gets hit by Karam on the ricochet, and they were 3 wide off turn number 2, and only 2 of the 3 knew they were 3 wide. I was about to mention that Josh Belicki did not get going on that initial start, missed a shift. That's what allowed Cabot to pull away so much, and 3 wide causes calamity on lap number 2 here at Auto Club.
3 wide for roughly half a lap between those guys, and you watch the 43 of Karam slide up the track. I talked about wearing the right front, getting a little over eager, and like you said there, Jacob, not many of them, or really all of them, knew there were 3 wide, and Belicki just gets hit by the 86 of Fern, who just runs out of space in the middle and did not back out at all. And there's a look there from the 43 of Karam. Again, last week's winner, Will Rogers, stepping through the middle and being able to thread the needle and avoid calamity here on the opening 2 laps of this race. And Josh Belicki going hard into the inside wall. Here's a look from the Flying Hawaiian, taking a little bit of a coffee break as they go 3 wide right in front of him.
Just a touch.
Wow.
Kind of used Colin Fern up a little bit there, get him out of the way, but I don't even know if that scratched the paint on the nose of that number 7. An incredible job getting through that carnage coming off turn number 2. And we'll see how this restart goes, Kenneth, because I thought overall that wasn't too bad. Having to deal with the clutch pedal with shifting and everything. Like I mentioned, Belicki had a little trouble with it, and somebody else, I think it was Sage Karam, might have missed a shift going into turn number 1. But other than that, it seemed like everything was okay up at the very front of the field. We'll see how they do with older tires, some cooler tires here now that they've heat cycled them a bit here on this next restart.
So Josh Belicki goes in for a tow. Looks like his race might be over unless he can get back out on track. Here's a look at our feature matchups presented by Grid Rival. They've been providing the odds all season long, and Derek Yoder doing a fantastic job behind all of that. Here are the matchups for this evening's race. Sage Karam against Justin Melillo. I think Melillo already winning that battle with Karam in trouble on the opening 2 laps. Gary Sexton, Josh Belicki. Nice tie battle between the 2, although Belicki may be out of this race already. Brett Baldeck, Michael Massey. That's going to be a close one. Both of them even at negative 110, so that's going to be a close one to watch. And then Colin Fern and Nick Olson. For Brandon Bill Motorsports, Fern, and for Grit Esports, Nick Olson. So that's your featured matchups so far tonight. So keep an eye on them if you want to see who wins at the end of this race. And here's a look at our race winner odds. And again, Jacob hits Colin Fern at the top of the board. Is that a surprise?
No, but lap 2, and he's in trouble. So he's going to have a long way to go, and he might as well have just started out back with Schildhaus and Blake back there, and we'll see how he does. He's not going to quite restart last. Right now, looks like he'll be 32nd. By the way, Sage Karam decided to use his faster pair in the pit lane. Belicki will have to do the same. He had to tow that hit to the end, that hit to the wall on the back straightaway, killed the engine on his tied Chevrolet. So he'll need to get that thing fixed on up before he can get out there. But race isn't completely done. We'll get a couple more yellows, gets a free pass or 2, and gets him back on the lead lap, and Josh Belicki will be right back into this deal.
And of course, you think about the last time we raced the 87 cars in Monday Night Racing, that was at Michigan back in season 4. That race was 90 laps long. We're extending this one by 10 or so laps. It's the same distance, Auto Club and Michigan, in terms of track length. So a little bit more of a strategy and endurance game. So like you said, Jacob, a long way to go. It's only lap 5 of 100, so 95 more to get back on the train. And also to note, we do have a lot of throwbacks here tonight. One of them included is David Schildhaus in the number 20 machine. Blake McCandless's pick, driving a Bobby Allison 1985 Miller Buick-inspired paint scheme. One of the many that we're seeing in this next level racing throwback 200. I know a couple of weeks back at Legacy, Texas with the Xfinity cars, we had a Christmas theme race, a lot of Christmas inspired paint schemes and winter themed stuff. Tonight it's all about throwing back to the legends of the sport, or even just throwing back to yourself. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of rain you could do that, as I believe we're going to get at the One to Green Signal. We'll double them up with Adam Cabot and Presley Soares. Somewhat of a fitting duo here, Jacob, considering these are the past 2 champions in M&R.
And we'll see who winds up with the title this year. You know, I feel like Presley Sora was a surprise, but not a surprise last year. And Adam Cabot was so dang fast 2 seasons ago in Season 4. That kind of made sense with him coming away with the championship. We haven't really seen domination from any one particular driver this year. You could look at maybe Chase Cabry, the youngster, the new guy in the series. He's had some good runs as of late. Schildhouse has always been strong throughout this season. Cabot again. We really haven't seen a clear championship favorite take shape yet, but playoffs just around the corner, so it'll be coming soon.
Adam Cabot quick to the gas, will jump ahead of the field, and we're back under green in the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 again. That outside struggling to keep pace, and they're already 3 wide. How about Nick Olsen threading it through the 7 and the 41 to turn 1?
And that time it was Presley Sora that bobbled and missed the shift. Here comes Reed Wilson. Now Ronnie Osmer up the outside trying to make it 4 wide. And that white and green 55 can't quite make the high side work, but he'll get alongside the 24 Nick Olsen for that 5th position, trying to follow Will Rogers toward the front of the field as Matt Stolnick takes over position number 2.
And that's something we'll see over the night, Jacob, is the multiple grooves that you can use here at Auto Club, most notably in turns 1 and 2. You can run fast from the inside and that white line all the way tucked up against that outside safer barrier. It kind of makes sense in a way because you cannot relax whatsoever. You have to keep yourself aware, understand where everybody's running, what runs they get out of the corner, and how you respond. Here's a look at Presley Sora, the Indiana native, the driver who went to victory lane already this season at his home track, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, with the Indy cars already. They're running 3rd, a little bit of a struggle to get started, right behind Matt Stolnick in P3, but both of them already catching Adam Cabot back to turn 4.
And Matt Stolnick, he had a good run to start the season back at Talladega, finished just outside the top 10, and he's somebody that could sneak himself in to the playoff picture. He did it a season ago, and I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest here, Kenneth, darn it, 50-50 shot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Stolnick in the picture here next week at Talladega going to victory lane. We've seen him do it before at a plate track. He's my guy at this point in time to maybe sneak himself in and make himself a favorite.
He's got a fight on his hands because Presley Sora looked to the inside for a moment for P2, backed out of it. They're going to stay single file and try to catch up to the Glen Gardner, New Jersey native in the 17 of Cabot. You did say Blake, but Blake is on the racetrack right now. And speaking of, McCandless is already up to 23rd after starting 31st. Did not take a qualifying time in the session, so decided to start from the rear. Kind of a last to first challenge, I guess, here from Auto Club. Here's a look at him as he rides on board and right behind Preston Pardis and under fire for another throwback in this race. Leighton Sabile and Blake McCandless here. Obviously, Jacob, we got a little bit in our heart for him as one of our commentators in the broadcast booth each and every week. He is, though, outstanding with these cars in the sim when it comes to special events, when it comes to official racing. McCandless is somewhat of a protege with these cars on the sim and running a very special throwback back to Herb McCandless's 1968 Dodge Dart. I love the family heritage there, too.
He loves driving these 87 cars. It's his bread and butter for sure on iRacing. His favorite car, he says it's the best on the service. Right now, just taking his time. He did pit back before when the caution came out. Just a little bit of time in the box, just 7 seconds, just some time for some fuel to get him back out on the racetrack. He was joined by about half a dozen or so cars that decided to do the same thing, but just taking his time, maybe thinking a little more on strategy. Meanwhile, change up front for the lead. Here comes Presley Sora around the outside of Stolnick. Cabot's been drop kicked to 3rd.
And he may drop to 4th. Will Rogers in the 7 looking underneath, and there may be some more cars to fight for it as well. So new race leader, defending series champion Presley Sora in the number 98. Here's a look at Rodney Osmer in the number 55. A solid qualifying start for Osmer here. You take a look at the camera on the bottom right, still behind that battle between what is now Garrett Smithley and Adam Cabot. Looks like Rogers has calmly moved up to 3rd, and now we have a two-way battle for 1st and for 3rd. Sora under fire from Stolnick on the outside to turn 1.
And here comes Will Rogers in that 7 around the outside, looking for position number 3. And Presley Sora is going to slide up in front of the 41. He's got the clear, and he'll take over that race lead. Stolnick going to try and cross him over, and that's what I love about Auto Club Speedway. It is so wide that you can just send it on into the corner, make it stick, and the guy will come back right underneath you, and we'll try it again the next corner. Looks like Will Rogers going to try and do that here on 2nd, as now Stolnick back out in front, clear for the lead.
There's a textbook crossover by Stolnek. Ran the high side, switched over down low as soon as they exited turn 2. But the draft going to work on the high side. That's also something that we haven't really talked about in our pre-race show going into lap number 1, as there was almost contact between Sora and Will Rogers going into the first corner. Luckily, they're able to escape calamity. And the 98 Presley Sora back to the lead. Rogers looking for second. But at a track this big, you're going so fast. And while, yes, driving in the middle of the corners, keeping your car planted is important, but having draft help and having pushers is also going to be imperative as Rogers looks to the inside for the lead.
No doubt about it, and since this thing is so wide, it's really hard to break away from the draft just because there are so many lanes, so many options that you can pick from here at the Auto Club Speedway. So these guys are going to be packed together for a very long time, really, until the tires really start to fall apart. As Sora and Rogers wheel to wheel for the lead going into turn number 1. Stolnek stuck battling for that 3rd position, and they fan out really 3.5 different lanes out of your top 4.
And then they're inviting more drivers into the mix, an accordion effect, if you will. The 78, the 24, that's Garrett Smithley in the black, red, and white Chevrolet on the top. The 24 of Nick Olson down low. Justin Malillo, Ronnie Osmer. There are many patrons in this fight that could easily get to the front. Here's a look on board from Smithley, who did finish inside the top 5 last time he raced the 87s at a large intermediate track like this. It was at Michigan back in season 4. Put up a fantastic effort in the 52 at the time when he was driving. This time the 78 for Live Fast Motorsports, and they are still going at it for P1 this time. Sora switches to the front, and Stolnek gonna dive for turn 1.
Sora's going to drive it in a little bit deeper. He's going to clear that 41. That could open up the door for the 7 of Will Rogers here up on the high side to get alongside Stolnek, get along his corner panel. Not quite going to be able to pull that off. He'll drop to the bottom, though. That'll allow Cabot to slide up to the high side, and Will Rogers drops to the bottom. He'll look for second. Now he'll charge for the lead. He can't quite get there. Sora closes the door on him going into turn number 3.
We're also seeing not many drivers look across the lanes in 3 and 4. A lot of guys really want to be stable down low in that first or second lane. It's really turn 1 and 2 that's the magic point where everybody fans out across the racetrack, where everybody's already experimenting. Caution flag out for the first time tonight. George Balfans Jr. in trouble. Front straightaway, and more cars involved. That's Preston Pardis in the 42.
Yeah, somebody, though, they're still wrecking down here. Sage Karam, Jordan Buster are around. That's just collateral damage after the caution flag here. But you're right, it started with George Balfans Jr. He got some contact down the front straightaway. Looks like maybe bump drafting or blocking gone wrong. Connor Berry in the 02 gives the 94 a tap, sends him around. Up the racetrack he goes. Caught one car hard up against the outside wall. That's Robbie Lyons in the 2. And it's just so hard to judge where this car is going to go. A couple of cars were right down toward the pit wall, and somebody drop-kicked it, I think. Yeah, that was Pardis that absolutely clobbered the inside pit wall. There you see broke the suspension on the left side of the car. And there you see the contact down at the bottom of your screen with Buster and Karen there just trying to get back on the racetrack, and neither one knew they were there. All good. But, yeah, contact with Balfans, who has had a rough go at it this season. Missed the first 2 of the first 3 races this year. Found himself, he had to qualify his way in. As you ride on board there with Robbie Lyons through the contact. He's had a rough go at it. Remember, he was in the playoffs a season ago, was a first-round exit, but still a strong contender a season ago. He has not had the luck that he had in season 5.
It's been somewhat of a turnaround there for Balfans in the negative direction. Like you said, a powerhouse rookie driver in season number 5. Hopefully he can turn things around as he ends up in a caution here. And you saw Jordan Buster in the 46 having to avoid Pardis coming up very quickly, and then all of a sudden got into the 43 of Sage Karam, and that's the second time that Sage Karam is involved in a crash. I don't believe it's going to take him out. He's going to stay in, and for the moment, everybody already on track. It will kind of reset as most of the field will come down pit road. Looks like Presley Sora going to bring everybody second on back in for the pit lane, while Will Rogers and Lane Sabile, the 7 and the 25, going to look to stay out here on the racetrack. Caution out once again at lap number 17. Just a reminder that our coverage of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 on Podium Esports is brought to you by Next Level Racing. Next Level Racing is proud to partner with Monday Night Racing. Founded in 2009, Next Level Racing is the world's leading simulation brand, revolutionizing simulation racing with its industry-leading product range. You can visit nextlevelracing.com for more information, and they did have a giveaway for the past couple of days, and we do have a winner. It is Midgetitch in his user, and he said, I think a past champion in Mr. Cabot could win himself his second M&R title. PS, really like his number font. Shieldhouse also has a good shout for a preseason pick. So already some championship picks going. I think that is fitting though already, Jacob, because we're pretty much at the end of the regular season. We've got our somewhat favorites, our winners, and drivers who may be underdogs, dark horses. I don't think Cabot or Shieldhouse are bad picks at all.
No, they're not. And in fact, I feel like they may be a little too obvious, picking the seasoned veterans. It's like going into a season 10 or so years ago and saying, okay, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, those are my picks to go try and win the championship. Like, well, no kidding. Of course they're going to be up there at the front. Of course they're going to be in contention. We'll see how things go, though, throughout the playoffs, because these playoffs are not traditional on any stretch. We're going to Pocono, we're going to Richmond, new tracks to the M&R schedule that we have not seen before. You got a road course in there in Watkins Glen. Daytona with the ARCA cars is always a wild card, and then 2.5 miles to end the year. So while the end of the schedule really favors somebody like Adam Cabot, the beginning of the schedule is a toss-up.
We have seen a lot of crazy things happen in M&R before. I mean, think of the championship last season, really. Like, we had our top four, we had our picks, and sure, there were favorites in that, but no one could script that final lap as they were coming out of turn 4 for the start-finish line. And obviously, Cabot, Shieldhouse, the heavy titans, but at the end of the day, still a lot to be decided here as we will cross for lap number 19 and another restart here from the virtual Auto Club Speedway in this Next Level Racing Throwback 200. Just to let you know, Lane Sabile, Will Rogers, and Joey Padgett all stay out on the racetrack, your top 3. Sabile, though, with 5 lap fresher tires than Rogers, and Padgett on the track. He pitted on a previous caution, so maybe that could be a very large change, and it might give Lane Sabile the lead in his Richard Petty 1992 Throwback. We'll turn our eyes, though, to driver in P19, our Tough Go Flooring in-race reporter, Blake McCandless. First of all, how are you feeling? And second of all, why don't you take us through this restart lap 19?
Yeah, sure, Kenneth. We're doing all right. We kind of tried a little bit of strategy there, kind of hoping it would go green. We're saving a lot. Just didn't pan out, but now this sets up a pretty interesting race here. But yeah, we're in P20 here. Can't exactly see the leader. It's really hard to see right here. You can even see it on the screen right there that it's kind of see a bunch of cars and trying to give as much space as possible, because again, if anybody misses shifts, they're just going to stop in front of you. Colin Fern's yelling about something because he's saying somebody went way too early or something. So that's pretty normal. But the one thing that's been really fun in this race is I've been kind of making the bottom work, but as you can see, even off the corner, you can see guys in the second lane, in the third lane, pretty much everywhere on the track. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure you guys have had a good show to watch. And we're going to get to the bottom here, 3 and 4. Again, we're trying to save a little bit. We're going to be really close on whether we can make it on one stop or not. I don't know if it's possible, to be quite honest with you, but might be worth trying.
You've seen the bottom work, and so far you're making it work as you go against Colin Fern on the front straightaway. It hasn't been tough, though, trying to maneuver around traffic. Has it been hard to pass by any means?
Well, I mean, every group's working, so everybody's kind of finding some speed in their own way. I definitely think that you're going to have to be way faster than somebody to pass on the bottom, because there's just so much momentum rolling off the top side at the end of these straightaways, and you're just able to carry the speed so well off the top. So I think you'll see a lot of people on the bottom that, will try to save their tires a little bit earlier on, but if you want to pass, it's going to be really difficult to do unless you're like in that third or fourth lane.
All right, Blake, well, we appreciate the time. I know you're going to be working with the 86 to continue making your placements up through the field. Best of luck, of course, with the rest of the race. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you, Kenneth. Have fun.
as I would say Blake is balling right now, going through the field, making that bottom work against the number 86 of Colin Fern. The restart was under review, and according to Josh Mendoza in race control, Will Rogers, who started the race in this restart, up at the front gets a black flag and gets a restart violation. So Rogers having to serve the penalty under green this time through.
Yeah, and oh boy, he's going to have a lot of traffic behind him. We'll see if he can make it to pit road safely. Looks like he can. He gets it onto the apron, and now Malillo gets thrown up and into the wall. He gets hit again. This time it's by the 2 of Robbie Lyons. No, that's the 21 of Max Kennan. 2 cars that look alike. And there was a lot that we missed there while we were talking with Blake. They were 5 wide almost at one point down the back straightaway toward the front of the field. Leighton Sabile got out in front of everybody for a while. And now he's kind of fallen back to 5th. Now he's on, well, he's not on fresher tires than everybody else, actually. He looks like he missed his stall when he pitted under that first caution flag. So he's on the same rubber as everybody else. And right now he is feeling it because he's getting passed just about by everybody in the field, it seems like, here through 3 and 4.
You know, I was about to mention it. There were roughly 4 or 5 wide. I had my eye on it, but obviously, you know, Blake was there, and he had a front row seat of all of that on the back straightaways. We may go 3 wide for the race lead. Indeed, we will. How about the 41? Matt Stolnagh diving to the inside under Sora, and Lane Sabile back in the mix to turn 1.
Here comes Stolnagh, doesn't quite have the grip on the apex of the corner. That's going to allow that 98 of Presley Sora to rocket back on the high side. He will take the lead away. He's got the help from Chase Cabry. First time we've mentioned his name so far tonight. As we ride on board with him going to turn number 3, he goes to the outside. 3 wide further back for position number 5. Cabot stuffing it in on the bottom. Sabile in the middle. Garrett Smithley on the high side.
Cabry started 34th in tonight's race and already up to 2nd. An insane move up to the field. They're 3 wide now inside the top 6 or so. Adam Cabot getting put through the middle. That is rookie driver Joey Pageant, the 83, looking underneath, and Lane Sabile, like we said, on the oldest set of tires, at least amongst his top 5. Only on the very top, Ryan Vargas in the 26, and Justin Malillo, who we saw attack the outside wall a couple laps ago, but he's still running well inside the top 9. Finished 3rd last time we had the 87s at the type of track like this, as Cabry looks to the inside for the lead underneath Presley Sora. Back to turn 3, but Justin Malillo in the 53, running a very special paint scheme for tonight's race here at Auto Club. It is not a throwback to NASCAR, not a throwback to stock car racing, but a throwback to a 1975 Porsche 911 built for Le Mans with Erwin and Manfred Creamer. So the design, a beautiful car for Traction.gg, and Malillo right behind Ryan Vargas, looking to make things work for position back to turn 1, as they are still door-to-door for P1.
Oh man, and Ryan Vargas, the back end of that 26 right in front of the 53, stepped out a little bit. They're going into turn number 1, but he's got the grip back under him. Now he's racing on a different rig tonight. In the 26 of Ryan Vargas. He tweeted out a little before the green flag that, yeah, he's not home. He's racing on somebody else's rig. It's a lot to get used to, I would imagine, but these are the creative things that we have to deal with, especially with holiday travel. Some drivers flat out couldn't make it tonight. Others are making it based on different rigs in different parts of the country, and right now, Ryan Vargas is making that work up to P6 while they're 3 wide in front of him for position number 3.
You gotta love the dedication as well. They're 3 wide up ahead. Vargas, as he looks underneath Garrett Smithley and almost about makes contact. Vargas directly on the bubble going into tonight's race from Auto Club. He's still in that fight with Justin Malillo for P6. And we saw Smithley there kind of weave a little bit out there. 3 wide with Stolnagh and Adam Cabot. That has since calmed down. But things have not settled for the race lead whatsoever. Sora looking back to the inside on Chase Cabry, and they have not let each other go, and they've also in some ways have run away a little bit from 3rd on back while they're battling. Looks like the top 2.
Oh, trouble! Away. Gary Sexton, big crash off turn number 4. Ford Martin's around. Nick Olson is involved. Josh Slate, James Bickford, they're still crashing. Oh, look out! Oh, and there's the 57. Seth Eggert piles in at the very end. Chris Weaver's around as well. Another big crash. This time it's off corner number 4. First car I saw sideways was the 13. Right there, you'll see the contact here between the 24 and the 13. Gary Sexton going for a slide.
It was off minimal contact. The 24 of Olsen was in the middle. Looked like he was going to hold his line. And one thing happened to him. He stepped out. Car overstepped. Got a little sideways. Had to chase it up the track. but there was no space to chase up for, no real estate to maneuver around that 13 victim as a result. Both of them driving throwback cars tonight from Auto Club. Ronnie Oscar splitting through the middle, and then you look at James Bickford, Reed Wilson, all the other drivers end up sliding into the mix, all of them trying to avoid it. And we've seen this happen already with the crash on the front straightaway involving Preston Pardus and Jordan Buster. As Pardus was coming up the track, as Buster tried to hit the brakes, the car just automatically weight shifted. It went sideways and kicked out loose. I think that may be a problem we're experiencing with the 87 cars. As soon as you hop on the brakes, make a quick shift in acceleration or braking, that car immediately steps out sideways, and you have no choice but to either be a passenger or to try and save it as Blake McCandless finds a way through all the mess.
No doubt about it. And, you know, these things are hard to drive. There is no doubt about it. And some guys are learning that, you know, a little quicker more than others right now as, well, now pit road's a pretty busy place. Had a couple of guys, though, about a dozen, choose to stay out under this caution flag.
We had a lot of drivers stay out, a lot of drivers come in, so more of a split decision this time at lap number 28 with Chase Cabre in the race lead. First time we see him in P1 all night long, the winner from earlier this season at Twin Ring Motegi in his rookie campaign, trying to make himself a favorite for the season championship. As we continue our coverage of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200, we will remind you that our broadcast on Podium Esports is brought to you by the series sponsor, Interstate Batteries. Built to top industry standards, Interstate Batteries has been the technician's choice for 9 years and counting. Powered by a distributor network of 300 wholesale warehouses and backed up by more than 150,000 dealers around the world, as well as 200 all Battery Center franchise stores, Interstate seeks to deliver the most trustworthy source of power to the world every single day. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable. So caution out again. It feels like, Jacob, we've seen a lot of sporadic yellows. Not a lot coming directly off of restarts, but it happens 5 or 6 laps into a restart. Drivers get settled, they start making more moves, they get a little comfortable, and that's when you see those fine lines get crossed and cautions start waving as a result. So at least it's not necessarily straight up stop, 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 just because we continue seeing yellows, but in a way, it's once we settle into a run, that's where those problems arise. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how things go on this restart. This is the most different that we've seen as far as pit strategy here between guys that have decided to stop and guys that have not stopped. Josh Mendoza bringing the info that everybody wants to know with a Monday Night Football update. Of course, it's nothing relevant. The Eagles are still 13-1. Fly, Eagles, fly.
The Philly native. The Philly native.
Not native.
Miami,
not native.
But
fan.
You can rap them. You can rap them for sure.
Yes.
I don't think anyone would be mad at you if you said I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Miami is not close at all to be as good as Philadelphia right now. But
the only unacceptable answer right now is being a Dallas Cowboys fan. So you have 31 other teams to pick from. You say Dallas, we've got problems.
I imagine you've seen the post by Stephen A. already from today or yesterday.
Oh yeah, I've been waiting I've been waiting about 24 hours to see that. Saw that this morning. Brought a smile to my face. A tradition unlike any other.
It's every time they lose a crucial game or they don't make the playoffs or something happens to them, I pop on my feed, I see him with a cowboy hat on, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is it. Ready for a restart here, lap 30 of 100, 70 laps to go in this Next Level Racing Throwback 200. Chase Cabre, the rookie starter with Presley Sora, the defending series champion on the outside of row number 1. Green flag back in the air, and again, that outside struggles to keep pace, and Adam Cabot threading it 3 wide for second.
Out of my way, he says to Presley Sora, I'm going in the front. He makes himself a hole, and he goes right to the back bumper of the 39. No fresh tires for that 17. That's just pure speed. As well, Colin Fern gets squeezed into the wall off turn 2 by the 55 of Ronnie Osmer. They're both going to lose a couple spots. Now Fern goes back up to the high side to try and cover the spot of DJ Cummings. He'll do just that. Fern holds on to 8th, but here comes Cabot looking for the lead.
Remember, Colin Fern trying to pick back off of the troubles in the first 2 laps of this race, but they are going side by side for P1, and Cabot with absolutely no help on the front straightaway, trying to reel back in that 39. Sora waiting in the ranks in P3, and as they go back for turn 1, looks like Cabot might have the advantage on the braking zone. No, he does not. Sora going to look for the very top and might make it 3 for the lead out of turn 2.
Looks like Sora got the heat back in the tires, and now that he's gotten through shifting as well, the 39 at Cabri gets loose. Sora cuts down to the bottom, somehow avoids making contact. Now he'll go all the way to the bottom. 3 wide for the lead to turn number 3. Sora down low, Cabot in the middle. Chase Cabri up on the high side. Stolnick waiting to pounce in P4. Give the spot to the 17 in the middle off turn 4.
And the 41 make it 4 wide. Chase Cabri smacks the outside wall out of turn 4. The 41 going to help the 98 in the draft, but 3 cars are better than was going to be 3 cars on the bottom, but they'll split. Vargas looks to the inside for what may be the top 5. And Adam Cabot going to hold on as Cabri tries to muster everything that he could to survive as the 41 slides way high in the middle of the racetrack.
I'm not sure if he got distracted by a blinking Presley Sora or what, but Matt Stolnick about missed turn number 1. He somehow kept that thing in the ballpark and did not junk the car to his outside. He's now dropped back to position number 5. Here comes Presley Sora into the picture in the middle in that 78. He backs up Stolnick for a moment. Colin Fern trying to drive through in that McDonald's car on the bottom. He's now in the top 5.
Fern on the comeback with a fire in his belly, but remember, we do have drivers on fresh tires led by Connor Berry inside the top 10. It's roughly a 10-lap or so difference between these guys. We'll see how much progress they're able to make. Here's a look on board from the rookie driver. Berry now inside the top 10 after starting 19th, but Presley Sora charging on the outside and a power move back to the lead.
Little side draft out of that 98, and he takes the lead away from the 17. Look at them all fan out down the back straightaway. Here comes Cabri now. He has a run. He drops to the bottom. He wants a shot at the lead. Colin Fern wants a shot at third. They both drive it in deep on the bottom. The 39 makes it stick. The 86 does not. Now he's loose on the bottom is Cabri. Sora pulls away. They're 3 wide for second. Cabri's going to lose almost a dozen spots down the front straightaway as he gets freight trained by the rest of the top 10.
That's going to be huge. You talk about draft being an important part of this race. You can't go without it, and Caber's going to have to find a space to somehow survive as Colin Fern makes his way to third. They're 3 wide for position inside the top 5. DJ Cummings on the top, Vargas in the middle, Matt Stolnick on the bottom. There's 2 Crypto Autosport cars in the mix as well. Finally, they calm down for the lead, but Colin Fern is coming, and he is on his way quickly to the top 2.
Don't look now, but here comes Blake McCandless. He is in 11th position. He is on, I believe, 2 tires at best. He is right behind Connor Berry, and Connor Berry has been cutting a path for him to get to the front, and McCandless has stayed tucked behind that 02, trying to charge his way to the front. We ride on board. Now we look toward turn number 1 as they're single file for the moment. Now here comes Cabot to the inside, looking for the lead. He'll easily take it away over Presley Sora. Sora's got the run for a crossover off 2.
Well, look at the 86 Fern on the very high side. He gets a big run on the back straightaway. Can he take it 3 wide? Will he? The answer is yes. Fern to the inside. 3 for the lead in turn 3.
Here comes the 86. Fern drives it in deep. Can he get it to stick? On the bottom, he washes up the racetrack. He at least has Sora. Sora crosses him over. He'll be in the middle, 3 wide off turn number 4. He gets split up the middle, down to the stripe. Who's going to lead the lap? Give it to Cabot by a nose. They are 3 wide, just about 3 rows deep down the front straightaway to turn 1.
It's a detail you can't miss when you're diving in the corner for position. You do not want to wear the right front and slide up the racetrack. It's given up so many spots. It's given up so much time, and Fern did exactly that. He'll try to regain that off of turn 2. He'll gain enough to get to the inside of Presley Sora. Might not have enough to get to your leader back to turn 3, but it may give him a head of steam as they'll head for the 3rd corner. Now Fern going to go way up on the high side. I think the first time we see that all race long. The 86 at the top, solo dolo, still in the fight for second.
All the way up toward that outside wall, and he has a huge run. He drops to the inside to get by Presley Sora. It will blow by him at the start-finish line. How about Ryan Vargas? He's entered the top 5. He sits in 4th side by side with DJ Cummings right behind the leaders, and now here comes Fern. He looks to the bottom. Cabot tries to cover the spot. Meanwhile, Sora goes to the top of the racetrack in turn number 2. Fern does not quite get the run on the bottom. Cabot continues to lead the way off the corner.
And what we're seeing here, you take a look at this high shot as here comes Presley Sora back for a second. They're 3 wide inside the top 10. Chase Cabry stuck in the middle. And Stolnick on the top, the 20 of Shieldhouse in the middle. We're seeing somewhat of an accordion effect here, Jacob, at this track. We're seeing a lot of drivers pull away for a moment. As soon as they start to battle against each other like your leaders are right now, then bam, here comes a third, here comes a fourth.
Whoa!
Fifth as Max Kennan wiggles the car out of turn 4 and almost about lost it.
Well, and he wasn't the only one. Josh Slate and another car a little further back about did the same thing right in his tire tracks, but they all keep him straight. Can you tell the tires are worn on these things? Meanwhile, Fern out in front, you ride on board with Shieldhouse. He's entered the top 10. He's in 7th. He is right in the thick of it coming off turn number 2 with Garrett Smithley to the outside. Meanwhile, here comes Sora looking for the lead again in turn 3.
Sora's going to try to strike once more against that 86 of Fern, who again elects for the very top in turn 3. Didn't work the last time, may work this time through. And how about DJ Cummings in the 10 machine in that 26 starting spot? When we drop the green, he's inside the top 4 and may take away a podium spot as here comes Fern back for the action against Sora to turn 1.
Closing in on the halfway point in this race, just 12 laps till we get there, and Colin Fern racing like there's 12 laps to go. Hops right back in front of Presley Sora, taking the lead away. Now he runs the middle line. Sora goes to the bottom, off the corner, give the advantage to the 86, but not for long. That 98 in his tire tracks down the back straightaway.
See them single file out, first, second, third. First battle for position is inside the top 4. That's Ryan Vargas and Adam Cabot side by side for position entering turn 3. We're seeing, the accordion effect start to strike. A lot of drivers packing in. Of course, we talked about drivers like Connor Berry and Blake McCandless. There's someone on the tail end of this, as well as Chase Cabry, who as soon as he got loose out of turn 4 has dropped to P11 and has not rebounded. If you're the drivers at the front, Jacob, are you concerned that the accordion effect may level these guys out, or are you still confident in yourself to stay up at the front and go for the lead like we're seeing Fern and Sora do right now?
I think they'll be okay, at least for the time being. We'll have to wait and see how this continues to pan out, but it's just a lot of back and forth up here at the front. It seems like you have the lead one lap, you're on 4th the next. Colin Fern holding down the Ford out in front for now as they battle for 2nd. Here comes the 10 of DJ Cummings to the inside. He wants position number 2 over Presley Sora. Sora running the middle line, Vargas running a little bit higher. Vargas just a little too far back. Give the spot to Sora for the moment, still side by side.
And finally, we're seeing the infiltration of the fresh tire cars. Remember, we talked about drivers who went down pit lane the last time we threw a yellow on the racetrack. The leader of that group, David Shieldhouse, at a 23.6 second stop, headed 14 laps ago. He's already up to 7th, and Blake McCandless in the same boat. An 8.3 second stop, also came down pit road with that group, and here he is inside the top 10 for the very first time all race long. So it's been somewhat of a tale of two cities between the old tire cars, who have somewhat held on for the front spots, but now at this point, fresh tire cars are starting to overpower, and they're making their case known at this point of the race.
Presley Sora just sent it into turn number 3. He made it work for the race lead, but Colin Fern wrapped it around the outside wall, and he's looking for the lead. He drops to the bottom at the start-finish line, cuts back up, and he is clear for the lead again. Right now, he is loving it up on that outside line. Colin Fern trying to hold on to the lead, but Sora has his eyes set on P1 off turn 2.
But watch the crossover. Fern gonna retaliate. He'll swerve on the exit of turn 2, and that was closer than we thought. He'll stay on the bottom for the race lead, and he may in fact clear the 98 back to turn 3. Yes, he will bring the McDonald's machine back to the sweetness of P1 as they'll tally again for third on back, and DJ Cummings trying to play defense against Adam Cabot and everybody else.
A great run for DJ Cummings. He's had a pretty good season. Wouldn't that be something if he could spoil the party and get himself into the Monday Night Racing playoffs for season 6? Give him a chance to fight for a championship. He has had the consistency throughout much of the season. And right now, looking at the points, he is right on the cut line. He could use some help, or toward the cut line. He could just use a little bit of help to get himself in. A P3 or better would do just that here at Auto Club.
You look back to history with DJ Cummings and the 87 cars, most notably that last race that we held with these cars at Michigan in Season 4. In the early stint of the race, that number 10 was up here fighting for position in that same place he is in right now, P3 amongst the heavy hitters in the field. It seems like it's no different, and this seems to be a sweet spot for the driver of the 10, Cummings being able to maximize all that he can. And like you said, in that position where he can gain a lot of spots in the point standings should everything stay this way, as they will heavy brake into turn 1. Adam Cabot almost about got stuffed by the likes of David Schildhaus, and I believe that might have been Ryan Vargas in the 26 at the top. He's stuck outside 3 wide, and Blake McCandless wiggling into trouble. The 78 gets turned at the exit of turn 2. He'll go for a slide on the apron, but he's the only car involved. No caution, will stay green.
And that time, coming off turn number 2 there, Kenneth, he just got loose, fishtailed, bounced it off the back bumper of the 26. The 26 of Ryan Vargas could save it. Garrett Smithley, 2 on edge. He could not, and he takes a slide down the back straightaway, but it's a single car deal. We stay green. You get a replay right here. Just gets a little loose with Sabile on his back bumper. He bounces off Vargas, and that's it. And he does a great job getting on the brakes, doesn't sail into the inside wall like we saw Josh Bilicki do on lap number 2. He was able to hold on to that thing. And now how about this? Blake McCandless, P5 coming off turn number 2. And whoa, Vargas, he goes for a slide. He's around on the apron. He's going to save it. What happened with him? He got some contact. It looks like maybe some netco between him and Leighton Sabile, acting like there was contact between those 2 cars. So this time Vargas goes for the slide off the corner, but he keeps the fenders on. He keeps on rolling. Problem is, he's now back outside the top 10.
And I was about to mention that, Jacob, the toughness of driving these 87 cars on edge, and that 78, as soon as he got loose, lost the ground. Everybody packed into him and then had no other option and went around, and Vargas with a miraculous save, might just be the save of the year so far in Season 6, as he makes that contact with the number 25 of Sabile, and it looks like we'll stay green. Another car sideways. That is Sabile this time at a turn 2.
Saved it. About the same line. He got the wall that time coming off turn number 2. And that's why he went down the racetrack the way he did. But he was able to keep it straight, just like everybody else around him. In trouble for Preston Pardis. He is off the pace right now on the apron of turn 3 and 4. Sounds like possible wheel damage for the 42 of Preston Pardis. He is coming to pit road. That thing is not driving well at all. Almost looks like the left front's flat. He has a meatball flag. Not sure if he blew the left front tire or not, but big trouble again for Preston Pardis. He is somebody who did not have a good week a week ago and really could use some help. Remember, he is on the outside looking in on the cut line, and he could use a good finish. So far, not so good from Auto Club for Preston Pardis, P Money in the 42.
Had a top 10 last week at CTMP, but of course this is a complete switch around in the worst possible way. We saw that crash he was involved in, slammed the inside wall, and now here he is potentiality of going a lap down, much like Josh Bilicki in the 79, and went for that hard hit in the inside wall in the opening 2 laps of the race. Take a look at the right side of your screen. That is your live point standing, so how things would shake out between all your regular season drivers heading into the final 2 races, and that's going to be very important. We'll talk about that a lot more in detail at Talladega when we step into the new year 2023. Also to note here, they have single filed out for most of your top 10, but it is somewhat of a familiar and different look at the front. Colin Fern has settled with Krusty Sora. They are no longer fighting side by side for the lead, or as aggressively as they used to be. Adam Cabot is finally back to 3rd. He's trying to chase that 98 and actually put up a faster lap last time than your defending series champion. And the new face in P4, our broadcast partner, Blake McCandless, up into the top 5.
Yeah, Blake's just slow and steady trying to win the race, and right now it's working out for the driver of that number 4 machine. So look to the inside, try and take 3rd away from Adam Cabot. Down on the bottom of the racetrack, washes up the hill, trying everything he can. He'll have just about half a car length over the 17, but he's going to roar back on the outside.
When we talked to Blake McCandless on the restart, said he was doing well at making the bottom work, and he's been faithful to that white line at the inside of the racetrack on both ends, and it has been working. The tire saving has worked for the driver of the 4, who took 2 tires, it looked like, on the last stop, and also that's going to be a very vital point as well, pitch strategy, if we stay green, Jacob. That's going to be big because the big switch and then the big difference, more so 10 or so laps between these drivers at the front, most of them, and all these guys that have now somewhat trickled into the top 5 and top 10. It's been somewhat of a little bit of a battle, and if we stay green, the pit calls are going to be insane.
How about this? You spoke it right into existence. Colin Fern pitting this time. You spoke it right into existence, talking about strategy. Right at halfway this time by is when we're going to see Colin Fern come to pit road. And I was even thinking, Kenneth, when we did the World 600 that Blake McCandless ran back in July, we were at Charlotte. Tires would last about 40 laps. After 40 laps, somebody would blow a rear tire and spin out and cause a caution. I'm not ruling that out here just because these guys think they may have more life out of their tires than they do. Their tire blows, you're going to be in trouble. We already saw it with Preston Pardis here. Fern's joined by Cabot and by Chase Cabry on the pit lane right now. We'll see if anybody else decides to make the call. I don't think they can make it from here to the end on this pit stop, so likely you pit here. You're going to have to pit one more time. But the guys that are on pit road right now have not been to pit road at all so far tonight.
And now is that a call for Presley Sora to come in? He's on the same strategy as those guys. Blake McCandless and some of the others like David Schildhouse can stay out a little longer just because they pitted earlier, but Sora going to hold his hope, and it looks like we may have a challenge for the race lead on the track before Sora comes in for service, because Blake McCandless is closing that gap and closing it very rapidly as he heads back for turn 1. He'll settle out. He'll go back for the inside. Never mind. He'll stick to the top, get into that clean air in the middle groove, and Blake McCandless to the inside for the race lead with 49 laps to go.
Connor Berry on the pit lane, the only taker that time by, and boy, McCandless right on the left rear corner panel of that 98 of Presley Sora. Sora holding on to the spot for now, trying to side draft going into turn number 3. Here comes Blake McCandless on the inside, looking to go to victory lane in his first M&R start. That'd be back-to-back races, by the way, where a guy making his career debut goes to victory lane. Karam did it last week at CTMP. McCandless trying to do it tonight. They're wheel-to-wheel to the start-finish line.
And also think about the strategy for the point standings. They continue to go door-to-door for the lead. Remember, Karam not eligible for the playoffs this season. Came out, won that race in dominating fashion at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And McCandless can do the same. What does that say for everybody else in the point standings? How tough is that route going to be by the time we get into the new year and to the Talladega Super Speedway? McCandless backs out of this fight for first, at least for now. He'll stick the nose back to the inside and try again. We are still waiting for that 98. Presley Sora, whether he's going to come in for service this time and join the likes of Colin Fern, Adam Cabot, and Chase Cabry, as all those guys on that strategy coming in at halfway. So as we head for 48 laps to go, if you're loving the action here tonight from Auto Club, you'll love what's going to happen after the checkered flag waves. We'll have our Frontstretch Post-Race Show with Jared Haas and Brandon Houck. Both of them will give you all of the analysis, all the details, and what the things will look like for Season 6 heading into the final race of the regular season. So stick around after our checkered flag waves here from Auto Club. Have more on that Frontstretch Post-Race Show. So now the question really begs here, Jacob, what does Presley Sora do? Is he going to hold out as long as possible, even if it's pressured by McCandless and Schildhouse, or is there some point where he's like, all right, I've got to bite the bullet, I've got to come in?
I think he's got to come onto pit road sooner rather than later. You know, I would think that as those tires continue to wear, and I know he's used to these 87s for the most part, knows how to save the tires, but man, nothing like new tires compared to the old ones that the 98 has to be driving on. And he's got to think that, you know, if I pit now, I'm going to have fresher tires than the guys that already pitted here, and that may be to my advantage later on in this race. It sounds like a couple more are going to be pitting this time, including the 21 of Max Kennan. He sits P6, and Presley Sora making the call. He's onto pit road this time around.
Looks like your race leader will come in, and now it will hand the lead over to the number 4, Blake McCandless, who may be under fire, by the way, by the 20 of David Schildhouse. There is Presley Sora hopping on the brakes. It's a tough entrance to that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. And Sora looks like we'll have no trouble hopping on the brakes and getting that car settled onto the lane. It looks like a couple of other drivers will join him. Like you said, Max Kennan, looks like DJ Cummings also going to follow through. Matt Stolneck also going to come in. Josh Slate among those involved in that group. So a big batch of race cars this time, as opposed to the 3 that we saw on a pit road with Fern, Cabot, and Cabry. Here we go for the lead once again. This time it's Schildhouse looking underneath, or rather that's not Schildhouse, that's Colin Fern. There's Schildhouse a couple of cars behind, 2 red cars in the mix, but that's Fern trying to unlap himself here, 30th on the racetrack.
and he would do it once these guys pit, but he's going to do it the hard way right now. The 17 of Adam Cabot trying to do the same thing here off turn number 4, and it shows how those tires mean so much. McCandless this time by here at the line running a 44.7. Same with David Schildhaus, who's in second. Cabot ran a 43.7, Fern a 43.8. So the guys that have already pitted are about a second a lap faster than the guys still out on the racetrack. A couple more coming to pit road this time. Ryan Vargas making his call. He's on pit road. Same with Garrett Smithley.
We saw guys like Robbie Lyons, Jordan Buster already in the pit lane to follow as well. So now we're starting to get more cars in. It looks like Garrett Smithley has also taken a trip down for service, most likely, of course, for fresh tires and some fuel. And so now the strategy books have really opened, and it's really going to hinge on what happens up here at the front with these guys staying out, or if a caution comes out that can really shake up the game, as there's another car coming in. That's rookie driver Ronnie Osmer in the 55 with the Dude Wipes colors on his car. So he's going to come in. There's a look at Ford Martin in the 07, who actually had a fantastic race at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park just 1 week ago, inside of the top 10 in a fight with James Bigford and what looks to be, but it's Presley Sora lap car, but that is Leighton Sabile on the very top. We'll see what Ford Martin can do. This is a nice look at his next level rig, and we'll see if the prophecy is still true with the next level rig. The consistency is high inside the final 42 laps. So remind you just quickly, with 42 laps to go, that our coverage of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 is brought to you by Toughco Flooring. Toughco Flooring is an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Toughco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. Toughco listens to your needs and requirements and develops custom solutions for every single client. For more information and to learn more, you can visit their website at toughcoflooring.com. So run through the top 5 or so for you just quickly. Blake McCandless, your race leader, by roughly 0.6 of a second to David Schildhaus. Joey Padgett has stepped into the top 3. Ford Martin P4, James Bickford inside.
Trouble, turn 2. Car in the outside wall. It's George Belfins Jr. coming down the track. Everybody missed him, but the caution flag is out. No more trouble now. Michael Massey and Brett Baldeck have crashed coming off turn number 2 as well. Another car around. That's Jordan Buster. He's going the wrong way on the back straightaway. So a couple of cars crashing, trying to avoid the George Belfins Jr. machine for the second time tonight. He is in trouble, and it's a single car spin this time in turn 2.
The car was lost going into turn 1 already. Hopping on the brakes we talked about. As soon as you have that little shift in weight, that car can be uncontrollable. And for the 94, got in between the seams entering turn 1, tried to slow the car down. He was already sideways. And that 24 of Nick Olson had been up on the top of the racetrack. He had nowhere to go as the 94 chased it back up the 14 degrees of banking. You'll see it here as the 27 of Michael Massey gets tagged from behind the 44 Brett Baldeck. His throwback machine going around. Baldeck in a tribute to Ted Musgrave's 1995 Family Channel Ford Thunderbird. And he gets into a spin. I believe he's able to avoid damage. That is one car turned into multiple cars on an instance. But what this is going to do, Jacob, is save all the guys at the front, because they were waiting on the track lap after lap after lap, wondering when they were going to come in for service, probably under green. But now we've got a huge change in the mix, because we've had drivers unlap themselves. Adam Cabot, Colin Fern, some of the heaviest drivers in our field. And now you've got all these guys coming in for service this time through.
And sucks for Michael Massey. He got hit there. He got on the brakes in time. Sage Karam was the car behind him that did not. But you're right, Kenneth. This opens up the window as far as pit road is concerned. I believe Chase Cabry is our free pass here, something along those lines. So we'll see how accurate that is. But that's huge now that Colin Fern and Adam Cabot were able to get their laps back under green, because this puts them right back up at the front of this thing. Presley Sora is the first car, 1 lap down. So this traps Kennan, DJ Cummings, Ronnie Osmer, Matt Stolnick, Ryan Vargas, among others, Garrett Smithley as well, 1 lap down. The good news here is the fact that they should be able to get the wave around here, since all the leaders came onto pit road, or at least all the leaders that were in front of those guys. Schildhaus winning the race off pit road. McCandless a little slow in the pit box, comes out P2.
So it's going to be big for the front row. Colin Fern, Adam Cabot to play some defense against everybody third on back, who have just come in for their fresh set of tires and for fuel to try to get to the end of this Next Level Racing Throwback 200. More to come on the other side from the virtual Auto Club Speedway right here on Podium Esports. Colin Fern in the lead with 40 laps to go.
This is an Interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More. Even more pros. Keep going. Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street. Everywhere. Interstate batteries. Outrageously dependable.
I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Run for your life. Run for your life.
Colin Fern in the race lead, ready for a restart here, lap number 63 of 100. We continue our next level racing, Throwback 200 from the virtual Auto Club Speedway, right here on Podium Esports. Jacob Hitz and Kenneth Bueno along with you for the action, with Ryan Bauer producing all the shots you're seeing tonight. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. So we've seen from our last caution before we went to our break how big of a pivot it was for strategy. Top two, Colin Fern and Adam Cabot, staying out on what is 11 to 12 lap older tires, and roughly 9-10 laps of a difference between them two and everybody third on back. We did have a couple of drivers come in for service once more a lap later to top off on fuel, but this is going to be, Jacob, a very big part of this race because we're into the final 40. We saw our longest green flag run of the race by far. If we get into that again, or if we end up in a caution fest, it's gonna really be a flip of a coin on who ends up on the better side of strategy.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out. They extended the caution another lap because half the field was a wave around and didn't get caught up in time. So some guys are pitting again here, topping off with fuel. Sage Karam among them, Will Rogers, Leighton Sabile. Those are the guys that are trying to make it to the end on fuel. I think they're going to need another caution or two just for some insurance. The two guys on the front row here, Colin and Cabot, I don't think they can make it without a couple more cautions. I think they're going to need probably in the range of 3 or 4, and in that case, they may as well get a caution with 20 to go. Everybody pits, they're all on the same strategy. Everybody else here, a little bit of saving, maybe a caution or two. I think they can make it to the end, or at least be in the ballpark of making it to the end. Since we had a couple yellows there in the beginning, they were able to make it the 50 laps for the most part. So I'm thinking, a couple more yellows in here and maybe one more trip to pit road. Everybody should be good to go here on the pit lane. By the way, tough break. We talked about Preston Pardis, needed a good run tonight for points. He is out. He will finish P35. Only Mark Rabillis out of this race before him. So tough break for a guy that needed points in order to get above the cut line going into the cutoff race in 2 weeks.
Really going to hurt for Pardis and the driver out of Florida as the green flag waves back in the air in this next level racing Throwback 200, and another solid start for the driver on the inside in row number 1. Colin Fern leading Adam Cabot, David Schildhouse, and now Blake McCandless inside the top 4. McCandless going to power on the outside third lane out of turn 2 as here comes Cabot for the race lead.
Chris Weaver got turned into the outside wall on the front straightaway at the back of the field. Restarts under review. Weaver's got a broken right front suspension. He's trying to wheel that thing back around. Meanwhile, 3 wide for the lead. Here comes Schildhouse on the bottom. McCandless trying to go up the middle, push that 17. Now looking for a hole of his own. Here comes James Bickford on the bottom. 3 wide for second. Put David Schildhouse out in front.
And there was almost contact between 5th place James Bickford and the 4 Blake McCandless. How about 4 wide for the lead? Back to turn 1, McCandless trying to make it happen all by himself on the bottom.
Boy, Cabot lifted so he didn't hook David Schildhouse into the outside safer barrier down the front straightaway. Schildhouse still out in front. He is clear. Colin Fern tried the outside line. No dice up top for the 86. McCandless side by side with David Schildhouse for the lead as Bickford couldn't use the bottom. He falls back. He's in 5th. Wheel to 3.
Race control, Josh Mendoza says the restart is under review. We'll keep tabs on whether any penalties get handed out, but James Bickford will power his way to 3rd without a fight, though. Colin Fern finally looking to charge back on the high side. 2 by 2, 2 rows deep. Here's a look on board from Bickford as Fern makes it 3 wide on the high side.
Fake to the middle, cut to the right, and goes to the outside, looking for the race lead, ripping the safer barrier in turns 1 and 2, loses a little bit of time on entry, sends it back in deep on the outside, doesn't quite get the run. We'll see if he gains some speed down the back. Here comes the 29 of Bickford, though, as one car slides. Now we've got trouble. Max Kennan's around. Stolnick is involved. Ronnie Osmer, another car involved. It's Connor Berry as Kennan's car comes to rest up against the inside safer barrier. Contact coming off at corner number 2. They were 3 wide, and again, only 2 of them knew that they were 3 wide. Matt Stolnick and the 55 of Ronnie Osmer kicking that whole thing off.
Similar to the incident on lap 2 with your top runners, and the 41 slides a little high, gets into the 55. Actually wiggled loose, chased it up the track. And bam, at the 55, they all run out of space. They make consecutive contact, and then Max Kennan just gets tagged along in the mix, and rookie Connor Berry had absolutely nowhere to go. As you'll see here, Stolnick gets tagged at the last second. Berry just hopped on the brakes and just braced for impact and locked it up. I believe, fortunately, is going to escape without any damage. Look at Smithley escaping the calamity barely as Stolnick goes for another hit on the inside wall. Stolnick out of Syracuse, New York. You'll see here as Lane Sabile is in the middle. Here's a look from Garrett Smithley, and right about there, the 41 on the right side. You can't really see him. Bam, right there. Then he pops up on the rear windshield out of nowhere. And things happen that quickly here at Auto Club. Again, rookie driver, Ronnie Osmer involved in as well. The mechanic for Our Motorsports, so a tough break for all 3 of those guys. The 21, the 55, and the 41 having good runs up to this point. And now we'll have to play a little catch-up as David Schildhouse, Colin Fern and company will fake for pit road. It looks like Colin Fern will lead a couple of cars in.
Strategery here. I like it. I'm really interested to see what these guys are going to go for here. As this is interesting. You pit here, I think you're in a pretty good spot here. And we'll see how it goes. I am not the best strategist by any sort of bar here, so we'll see how these guys work out. But I would imagine, since you have 4 tire sets in the pit lane coming in, I would take tires. Of course, Nick Olson's gonna ignore that sentiment. Looks like Sora took 2. Colin Fern is going to take 4. That may be the winning move right there for the 86 of Colin Fern, because he should have another set left, I think, on pit lane, where if he wants to, he could use those. He could go get 4 more tires at the end if we get a late caution and try and run his way up to the field like we've seen him do before.
I'm also surprised that Adam Cabot didn't follow him in, just because they were in that same strategy. It's basically Colin Fern all by his lonesome. And wow, I know, Jacob, I agree with you too. I am not the best with strategy, but somebody who has an insight on the strategy on the track right now, our Tough Go Flooring in race reporter Blake McCandless, who is up to 2nd place on the racetrack. Blake, first of all, how are you feeling, and how has it been dealing with all the strategy so far inside the final 33?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, the bottoms kind of worked, and we've just kind of been patient, saved our tires from whenever we've needed them, and we were kind of driving away at the end of that last run. This next run is going to be really interesting, though. I don't think you're going to see anybody really pit past like 20 to go or so, because you're just going to have so much track position to try and get through. But you're definitely going to have to save a little bit. And which lane do you want to be running? It seems like again, it's hard to pass on the bottom unless you just have saved your stuff late in the run. So kind of, I think everybody, at least here in the next few laps and all these restarts, are really going to be fighting, especially in 1 and 2, to try to get to the top. But this has been a really fun race. And then Showhouse, myself and Fern, we had a good little battle right there. So I hope we can keep that up. This has been a really, really good time.
All right, driver, coming to 31 here to go. There's a lot of race left. Do you like your odds to win this deal? Do you think maybe somebody like Colin Fern, who just took 4 tires, may have the upper hand on you? I'm curious what you're thinking from the driver's seat here.
I think by the time they get back here, they're pretty much going to have evened out with us. I mean, Colin's back in 20th, so he'll have an advantage for a little bit, but I think by the time he gets up here, it'll be a wash. This really all we ask for is just a chance to be up front at the end. It's hard as the leader because with the draft, it's just hard to break away. But I think, we're up front. I'm pretty confident we can get it done, and excited to see what happens here.
I think it's kind of fun that you're starting alongside David Schildhouse, the driver you picked to go to victory lane tonight.
I was about to say, I could just wreck your picks tonight and make sure that I actually win for once.
I need to beat you in points, Blake. Don't.
Well, no, wait. You were my pick. I should at least get something for that, right?
Oh, man. Point standings are crazy. But Blake going to start alongside David Schildhouse on the restart. 31 laps left in this next level racing throwback 200 from Auto Club, and David Schildhouse quick to the gas into the restart zone and back to green.
Trouble! Sage Karam's turned around into the infield grass. He did not get going. He gets turned around. He winds up in the inside wall right at the scoring pylon. We stay green because it's a single car spin as everybody fans out through turns 1 and 2. Those tricky restarts getting up through the gears. Restarts under review. Schildhouse is long gone off turn 2.
Yeah, it looked like the clutch and missing the shift just got Karam there, and Presley Sora had to back up, but it was way too late. Got into the rear bumper, and around Karam went as he right on board with James Bickford out of Charlotte, Phoenix, a driver who did pick up a win in last season's edition of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. It was with the Pro 2 trucks at Watkins Glen, but since then, Bickford has been close, but never had the cigar. This time could be the difference as he moved up from 13th to 2nd now, and will look to the lead at turn 1.
And Bickford, remember, was so close in winning the Season 5 championship, just couldn't quite get to the front straightaway in time as the carnage was unfolding between Anthony Alfredo and Presley Sora for the championship. He was in the catbird seat. Restart deemed good by race control. Here comes the 29 of James Bickford using the outside, looking for the race lead. McCandless drops to the middle. No, he goes to the bottom. Schildhouse to the bottom as well. He maintains the lead off corner number 4.
Now remember, this may not be the last of it in terms of the amount of drivers fighting for the lead. We've seen countless times the top 3 or 4 or so break away in the opening laps, and then everybody 5th or so on back decides to all pile in, and then we get an absolute dogfight for first on back. Justin Malillo, Adam Cabot have settled single file for 4th and 5th. They remain side by side for 2nd. Blake McCandless using the very inside. He'll stick along with that number 29, and here's a look at Colin Fern. Remember him coming in for pit road service. He's up to 14th.
Right on board there with Fern, and he's right in the thick of it. They're fanning out behind him, just trying to get through all the traffic as he's sort of leading the charge right now of the guys that have fresher tires. Actually, Presley Sora has the freshest tires toward the front right now. He is P9, fighting with Leighton Sabile. Sabile pitted 2 cautions ago. Of course, that was for just fuel, so his tire's a little bit older compared to everybody else. But Presley Sora, right now, a man on a mission to get toward the front and be the first driver to have a repeat victory in season number 6. Of course, David Schildhouse, he just wants to go to victory lane. He'd then be the first driver to pull it off if he can last these remaining 28 laps.
And Sora looking to break the tie between himself and 4 other drivers. Kyle Busch, Adam Cabot, Corey Heim, and Colin Fern. All of them, including Sora, have 3 wins in their M&R careers. Sora looking to break that curse and tie himself with Garrett Smithley and Raja Karuth as the only other drivers to have 4 career M&R wins. Here comes Chase Cabot to the inside, and Leighton Sabile is still on the top. They'll make it 3 wide around Presley Sora, and you watched up front, all single file for first on through this position up to until you get to Sora, and they're absolutely going all out, guns blazing as the 98
Sabile!
Sideways.
This isn't Texas. He's able to hang on to that thing, drifting it into turn number 1. I can't believe he held on to the race car. He is way off the pace. He is going to be 4 wide down the back straightaway. He gets out of that, and man, oh man, that 25 was out of control going into turn number 3. My guess, he hit the brakes just a touch to try and set the car into the corner, and boy, it did not like that. He keeps the fenders on it. He loses almost a dozen spots, though. He's now in 17th.
That's similar to what happened to Chase Cabry. Remember, Cabry got loose at the exit of turn 4, had to pick the car back up, but lost all that speed, and everybody just came ravaging by. And It took him all the way to 14th at that time of the race. So fortunately, Cabry has been able to pick things up. But for right now, the focus sets on the battle for second on back. Bickford trying to play defense against Adam Cabot. And how about Justin Melillo, who rolled off P9 tonight? Melillo back in the fight as here comes Bickford, a challenge for P1.
Bickford down on the bottom of the racetrack looking for any grip he can. He washes up the racetrack a little bit. We'll see if Schildhaus has the power up on the outside of the racetrack. He does. He'll maintain the lead. Then Blake McCandless going to follow him up there. He's going to go right to the back bumper of the 20. He's going to get out of the way from Cabot. He's going to push the 20 clear of the 29 for the lead to turn 1.
With the Napa Cali
trouble off turn 4, Kenneth. Connor Berry is around. Single car spin. He got loose on the bottom coming off turn number 4. Looped it down on the bottom of the racetrack. He was kind of toward the racing line, but we stay green as he kept it low enough where nobody was going to hit him. And a tough break for the O2 because he was having such a good run, such a promising season for the rookie. Is now another car sideways in 3 and 4. That one's Colin Fern doing a 4-tire power slide off the corner. So much for those fresh tires as he loses spots off the corner.
It's the last thing you want to do, get involved in a single car incident or have that stumble all by yourself. Is there 3 wide for the lead? McCandless strikes on the bottom, Bickford on the middle, Schildhaus at the very top. And McCandless, like he's done all night long, going to roll the inside. Bickford's going to charge through the apex in the middle, but Schildhaus will have the run out of the 14 degrees of banking. We're still 3 wide for the lead at a turn 2.
And Schildhaus got the better run there on the high side. He clears both cars down the back straightaway, retaking the lead. Now the battle's for second. Adam Cabot wants a piece of it here in that 17. McCandless right down to the white line using the bottom side to his advantage. He slides up the racetrack. He's clear of James Bickford for now. Bickford crosses him over. They're 3 wide again down the front straightaway.
I was about to mention the Napa, California native of Bickford to the inside once more for the lead. And what does Adam Cabot and company do behind to make sure they can have a name in this fight as well? Schildhaus again at the top. McCandless forwarding the middle. And Adam Cabot going to look for the bottom. Bickford going to try and slide ahead of Schildhaus, but it will not work. It will not be successful. And again, we remain door to door for the first and second rows. They'll pile drive on the top. And Adam Cabot will follow Bickford with absolutely no help back to turn 3.
Looks like Case Kallenbach had some issues in the back of the field. Single car deal. We stay green. Meanwhile, up here at the front, they are just all over each other in the top 5. How about Justin Melillo in the 53 inside the top 5, looking to redeem himself after Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago where he was battling for the win. Couldn't quite hold on for those final couple of laps. This time, he's right in the thick of it when it matters the most. Coming to 21 laps to go this time by. Bickford drives it in deep on the bottom. Schildhaus looking for the run off the high side. He gets it.
Melillo looking to electrify this battle and potentially lick the batteries. At the end of tonight's race from Auto Club, they duke it out again for position near the rear of the field, but we stay side by side for the lead. Bickford on the bottom with help finally from Adam Cabot at the 17. McCandless and Schildhaus looking at the top. McCandless going to diamond it out of turn 4, and he'll look to the bottom and thread the needle in front of Adam Cabot and underneath 3 wide again.
That was risky, especially with a guy on the inside that's trying to make the playoffs and has not gone to victory lane this year. Dangerous game for Blake McCandless, but heck, it might work. 3 wide for the lead into turn number 1. We'll see how deep he drives it in. Bickford drives it in really deep in the middle of the racetrack, trying to slide up in front of the 20. He'll do just that. James Bickford takes the lead off turn 2.
Bickford going to hold on to the lead, but we'll see how long it lasts. So we talked to Blake McCandless. He said holding the lead has been so hard with the draft, it's somewhat impossible to run away from traffic behind you. It seems to be the case once again here from Auto Club as the sun continues to set. Track temp all the way down to 80 degrees. It's been 3 degrees of a difference since we dropped the green flag. Here's a battle potentially inside your top 5. That was Sora looking underneath Justin Melillo, but your top 7 or so all single file under a blanket.
20 laps to go from Auto Club Speedway to try and win this throwback race. Bickford out in front. Schildhaus saying not so fast. We have a caution. There's trouble in turn number 1. Ford Martin is involved. Ryan Vargas is involved. And this changes everything in turn number 2. Ford Martin making contact with Garrett Smithley and some heated words exchanged between the two over the communication radio.
There's a look at Ford Martin's car, or at least what's left of the right side, and there's the hit to the outside wall before he even got to turn 1. The contact on the rear side, you'll see Smithley use him for draft, and we haven't really talked about this all night long, but using the brakes, you have to do it in turn 1 just because you're going so fast. And the braking markers are different for every driver, especially with tires in the mix as well. And the 78 just gets in the back of the 07. And hard contact Ford Martin makes, and then as he ricochets off the safer barrier, just travels down the racing surface and into Max Cannon and Josh Slate, who at that point were trying to avoid it, and they both went sideways before they even got to Martin. Here's a look from La Mirada, California, is Ryan Vargas in the 26. And well sideways before the caution even really comes out with Ford Martin and company up front.
My, oh my, what a race that we have put together here at the front of the field. And, well, we'll see how this plays out. This helps the guys, though, that haven't pitted in a couple of cautions, like a Bickford or a Schulthouse. Helps them save a little more gasoline to make it to the end of this race. Although I think we're at a point now where if everybody pits, you'd be okay, because everybody is going to be on equal tires. We'll see the move here. Pit road is open this time by. Survey says Bickford's coming to pit road. Couple of cars staying out. Chase Cabry, Colin Fern, Joey Paget all stay out, as well as DJ Cummings. Those 4 do not fear the fresh tires and will stay out and take over the top 4 spots late in the race.
That's going to be big. And one thing that we've also seen, Jacob, is the tires haven't really been that big of a factor. We've seen them work, obviously. Of course, fresh tires are better than having worn tires, but even with 10 laps or so of a difference, we haven't seen that big of a discrepancy. And I immediately remember back to Legacy Texas with the Xfinity cars, how big of a difference in speed you would have if you had fresh tires versus drivers who are out for 20 laps, 25, 30 laps, 40 laps even on a run. The speed difference was just absolutely astronomical. Tonight it hasn't been the case with draft and all of these equalizing factors. It's been way tougher as a fresh tire car to maneuver your way through traffic and get to the front. So maybe this call by the likes of Cabry, Paget, Fern, and DJ Cummings, and might work to their advantage as everybody fourth on back will head for pit road. Just a reminder that as we continue our coverage inside the final 18 laps, we'll remind you that our odds and a lot of stuff for our broadcast is brought to you by Grid Rival, the most in-depth fantasy motorsports manager game on the planet. Grid Rival is full of engaging features that bring a new level of engagement to your favorite racing series. Grid Rival is proud to support Monday Night Racing, and you can check out the Grid Rival in the App Store on Apple or Android. So why not get an update, Jacob, from our Grid Rival featured matchups. Melillo versus Sage Karam. Obviously, the challenge going to Melillo at this point. Melillo has had a fantastic race from Auto Club Speedway. Karam, on the other hand, has been dealt some bad luck. Gary Sexton and Josh Bilicki, that one settled after lap 2 with Bilicki going 1 lap down and more after the crash in lap number 2. So Sexton currently winning that fight as Sexton currently rides in 7th. Brett Baldock and Michael Massey, I think that's been the closest one we've seen, Jacob, all race long. Massey currently running in 24th, Baldock in 31st, but they have been rather close all race long. Colin Fern and Nick Olsen, also somewhat of a close one, but Colin Fern obviously winning that one in P3. Some nice matchups, though, tonight. Very competitive.
Baldock Massey. Interesting. Interesting call.
It's been close. It's been close. So, I mean, can't doubt that. And speaking of, the Grid Rival race winner odds now on the top of your screen, and Colin Fern at the top of that. Guess where he's sitting? P3 on the racetrack with the strategy call inside 17 to go. So maybe Fern, after all, could get to a race victory at a track that's really cursed him in some ways, Jacob. You think immediately back to that Season 4 championship race, got into contact with Shane Van Gisbergen on lap 1, then had a chance to redeem himself for the championship fight, made a crucial mistake, and slipped over the pit box on his strategy, and that definitely cost him a lot of time. It cost him a potential shot at the championship. Last time we were at Auto Club was with the Indy cars. Fern didn't necessarily have a shot at the race win at the end, I don't believe, and they were crashing a bunch near the end as well. So Fern looking to finally grab a win here at California in Fontana, as he will ride behind Chase Cabry. I think that may be the best spot to be in. We've seen the leader be so strong on restarts all night long that outside has failed to keep up. We'll see if it all pans out the same way. Joey Paget, the one to react on the outside of row number 1. Restart inside, 16 laps to go in this next level racing. Throwback 200 as they head back for the restart zone into the green. It's Chase Cabry back to the front to lead the field to turn 1.
Everybody waiting to fan out till they get to the start-finish line. Most of the top 10 stayed just double file as Cabri now runs away from the rest of the pack. They are 3 wide, no 4 wide, almost 5 wide. Coming through turns 1 and 2. Gary Sexton sent it down on the bottom. Nick Olson trying to send it through the middle. Can't quite get that to work, and the holes are just all clogged up here at the front of the field, side by side for second. Paget and Fern. Here come the fresh tires, though. George Belfans Jr. took just 2. He's back into this deal after 2 spins tonight.
And they were almost 4 wide out of turn 4, and they almost make contact. Colin Fern strikes the outside wall, and they're still 3 wide in the middle of the top 7. That's James Bickford, Blake McCandless, and Adam Cabot rolling 3 wide back to turn 1. But you're right, George Balfan Jr., who had struggled all night long, involved in 2 crashes, now with the possibility to step into the top 3. And Bickford, look at his in the middle, 4 wide out of turn 2.
I can't believe Bickford made that work.
Wow.
That may be a move that puts him into the playoffs right now, whether he wins this race or not. As remember, he's on the outside looking in as far as points are concerned, but that is a big old move up the middle. No regard for anybody else on the racetrack, and that 29 is moving to the front as now there's contact. Belfans is around. Blake McCandless is involved. Presley Sora is involved. 2 big names involved in this slide through the grass off turn number 4. The caution's out. No damage between the 3 of them, but it just got too hot, too quick, and eventually it was going to boil over. It did right there.
That's tough there for McCandless. First incident he's involved in tonight. And 3rd for George Balfans, I believe 1st for Presley Sorrell. You'll take a look at it, and at some point, you're right, something was going to happen based on the way they were racing, and it looked like the 94 just got a little too loose, and we've seen that little wiggles on the racetrack result in just a domino effect, and it kind of snowballs into a bigger one. You're right on board, contact, and Sorrell with absolutely nowhere to go.
Did a good job keeping it off the wall, though. Hanging on to the cars. And, well, at this point they lose their track position, but we get to re-rack, restack, and try this thing again.
There's a look at Sora trying to pick up positions. Fortunately, him, McCandless, I was going to say Balfans Jr., but Balfans Jr. has dropped to 23rd. Luckily for Sora and McCandless, both of them are going to somewhat retain track position. They're going to be 8th and 9th by the time we get back to the green flag, just in case. And just obviously, if nobody else in the front comes down for pit road. We do have still those top 2 in Chase Cabri and Joey Paget, the 39 and the 83, still staying out. They're holding out hope into the final 13 that they can have enough fuel and obviously enough tire life to make it to this checkered flag. Chase Cabri, the Tampa, Florida native, the Rev Racing driver, and one that has already gotten to victory lane this season in his rookie campaign with the win with the ARCA cars at Twin Ring Motegi, a dominating one for the 39. And ever since, Jacob, it's felt like Cabri has been unstoppable, and in a way, somewhat relates back to a lot of the rookies that we have seen immediately step foot in the door and make their name known. You think about Presley Sora, defending series champion, Day night racing competition. This is the first full season for Chase Cabri, and although he hasn't been able to back up on the win he had at Twin Ring Motegi, the finish after finish after finish and the consistency definitely adds up, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
No doubt about it. And you know, if there's anybody in the field that's going to have a legitimate chance to be another rookie that goes deep into the playoffs and has a shot at the championship, Chase Cabri's your guy. There have been some guys that have had some speed. You know, Connor Berry has been one who has had some speed just about everywhere we go. But it hasn't quite been as consistent as the driver of the 39. Plus, Chase Cabri has been able to take that thing to the playoffs a couple of times this year. So I think, or once this year, since nobody's won more than once this season. But I think Cabri's your guy. He's been consistently fast everywhere we have gone. Flat tracks, the high banks, the road courses, everywhere Chase Cabri has been fast, and I think that's going to continue throughout the playoffs, even though we have a wide array of tracks from Watkins Glen to Pocono to Chicago to Richmond. I have a feeling that Chase Cabri is going to be in contention everywhere we go in the playoffs.
It's going to be big. And also the fact that we have the ARCA cars back on tap, they're going to be at Daytona. Obviously, Daytona is a big equalizer, huge super speedway, but with the skill that we saw Chase Cabre show with the ARCA cars, the Twinning Remote Teggy, no doubt he'll carry that over into that Daytona race. And for the rest of the schedule, again, like you said, Cabre might just be a huge favorite for the championship this season. You also look back at the drivers second and third. I want to talk about them as well. Joey Padgett in the 83, rookie driver as well with Cabre. Only difference between these two, Jacob, Padgett remains without a race win up until this point. He looks to become what will be the 7th different winner in this Season 6 campaign if he can get to it. Remember the heartbreak he suffered at Legacy, Texas with the Xfinity cars. Lost that first place battle to David Schildhouse in the final lap after holding on into a green-white checkered restart. Then you look at James Bickford. If he can get to victory lane, it'd be the first time since last season at Watkins Glen where he went all the way to the championship 4. And remember, he started outside of row number 2, P4 with the Indy cars here at Auto Club last season. A race that could have easily landed him a spot locked in the championship 4. He's got a shot to lock himself into the playoffs this time around at the very same track. 11 laps to go here from Auto Club Speedway. Chase Cabre, Joey Padgett to the green flag.
Let's see how this plays out. I'm not convinced they're going to make it through turn 1 without any casualties here, but oh boy, strong up front, one car on the apron getting back up to speed. That's the 8 of Chris Weaver. Everybody is good so far, but I'm sure that scared some folks that were out on the racetrack trying to get up to speed down on the bottom of the racetrack. But everybody is good for the time being. Cabre skating away, but here comes Bickford. Shot out of a cannon on the restart. To the inside with the fresh tires. He wants the lead. He washes up the racetrack. Cabre fighting back on the outside.
That's going to open the door up for 3rd and 4th. They're in a battle as well. Joey Padgett and the 17 of Adam Cabot. The 41 going to give support, but Canlis trying to make it 3 wide on the top end. Thread with the space. Can't quite do it. And Bickford going to stay even with Cabre this time back to turn 1.
And McCandless is having a rough go at it there on the outside. Matt Stolnick not giving him any room, and I don't know why he should, since the 41 racing for the playoffs. The 4, not so much. Cars loose up on the outside. McCandless starts down in the middle. Colin Fern is sideways and is spinning off turn number 2. He's down on the apron. He's lost all of his spots. He is way off the pace. He is going to lose everything that he had worked for here to try and go to victory lane. Disaster for the 86 of Colin Fern. And here they come back up off the corner. The 29 out in front. Oh, McCandless gets the wall. He gets hit. He goes around. He spins in front of the field. No caution. He puts his foot in it, slides through victory lane, and heads back to turn number 1 without all of his track position.
Again, similar instance, and McCandless drops track position, the 86 and the 4, with problems in the opening laps after this restart. Again, we will not throw the yellow. Race control says single car incidents do not warrant that. They're 3 wide in the middle of the top 7. Padgett falls back inside the top 10. Here comes Nick Olsen challenging in that yellow 24.
Nick Olsen sending it in down on the bottom of the racetrack, trying to do everything he can. That thing washes up the racetrack just a little bit down there inside the top 10. Sliding up in front of Reed Wilson. Wilson gives him a little bit of room. Coming just to 8 laps to go here from Auto Club Speedway. Bickford and Cabot wheel to wheel for the lead. The car pretty much holding the strings right now is David Schildhouse pushing that 29 out in front.
You have to imagine now, inside these final 8 or so laps, desperation is going to kick in. Adam Cabot, the driver with the most amount of points, but without a race win this season. Bickford looking to lock himself in as well. Schildhouse looking for his 2nd win. Stallnight looking for his 1st. Sora looking for his 2nd. Here's a look on board with Schildhouse. He'll follow through in the tracks of the 29. They both make contact. Bickford with a wiggle back to turn 3.
Bump drafting gone wrong. The noses on these cars don't necessarily line up, and you hit just the wrong spot. That could kick somebody sideways with how unstable these cars are. 3 wide for the lead, and now trouble. Reed Wilson gets turned by Cabre. Gary Sexton goes through a slide through the grass, and we are having a late race caution here at Auto Club Speedway as 3 wide once again off turn 4 causes calamity. Almost, well, they were staggered 4 wide, and I think that's what caused all that.
What that's going to do, push us into a restart inside 5 laps to go. Here's a look at the replay and exactly how it all happened. There's Gary Sexton. He goes underneath Cabre, who slides up the track. And again, Jacob, a case of one car getting loose and just trying to chase it. I believe Cabre actually didn't really get that loose, but just moved it up the track, washed up, and then just tapped the 66. Maybe imagine that by the time they got out of the corner, he would be clear behind that 66 car of Wilson. His look on board from Sexton. running a Bill Elliott 1995 McDonald's Batman throwback tonight. And unfortunately, it gets a little bit of damage. I love the McPodium on the side of the race car, but then gets an extra hit by Cabry and just tried to make the position happen down low. That contact at the top, there was nothing Gary Sex could do, and a lot of these drivers just a passenger.
Yeah, that's kind of been the theme of the day, though. 3 wide, there's contact, and, well, at that point, you're just a passenger, like you said. And, well, we'll see how this goes. This does let, though, Colin Fern back into this thing. Remember, he had that slide. He's on pit road right now. Blake McCandless is back on pit road, and I think for them, they're just going to suit up with 4 fresh tires, get back to work, and try and spoil the party here. The problem is we're going to have a restart with 4 laps to go.
And this reminds me of the final restarts we had, Jacob, with the Indy cars at Auto Club. Well, we talked about it as well pre-race on how this race is going to compare. Obviously, the cars are different. The speed level is different. You're not going 235 in a turn 1. You may be closer to 200, but not that level of an IR18. But just with the way that Auto Club is raced, at least in recent memory, with those Indy cars, that we were trying to compare it, and I think we may be in for another absolute dogfight in the final laps.
See how everything plays out, and boy, it's going to be crucial up here at the front. My biggest question for you right now, Kenneth, is where are we at here? Do we have another new winner this season? Doesn't have to be a new to M&R winner, but just a new winner on the season, or do we finally get a repeat winner? We have a couple of contenders for that, like a David Schildhouse, like a Presley Sora, like a well, I guess those are the only 2 that are really it right now, up inside the top 15. Maybe Sage Karam back in 13th. Need a little carnage to get there.
I think we may see a 7. To be completely honest, I think with the competition we've seen, I think how hungry Bickford is, how hungry Cabot is, I think these drivers may just be in the running for that win, and we will see a 7 different winner. Just for reference, by the way, back in Season 5, it took us 4 races to get a driver to win 2 races in the season. It was Presley Sora with the Radicals in Texas. By the time we were at race 7 in that campaign on June 20th, we had 2 drivers have 2 wins. It was Anthony Alfredo who picked up his 2nd with the next gens at Talladega. Then we had a different winner on week 7. That was Will Rogers with the SLMs at Gateway. But so far this season, it's taken us 6 races. We have yet to see a familiar face get back to a W. We've seen all different drivers, and what that's only going to do as well is continue to open things up in the playoff fight. Because if we continue to get new different winners, spaces are going to run out for sure for point standings by the time we get to the race in a couple of weeks' time at the Talladega Superspeedway. Are you seeing, Jacob, a new winner, or do you think we have a familiar face back to the front to win, maybe like a Schildhouse or a Sora?
Depends on the theme of the day. Mistakes. If Schildhouse makes a mistake, I think that opens up the door here for somebody new. Now, it's going to be a familiar face in Victory Lane, whether it's Bickford, Cabot, maybe Matt Stolneck. We'll see how things go. I think there are a lot of new guys, though, that have not gone to Victory Lane before, like a Malillo, a Joey Padgett, a Nick Olson, that are looking to break through and break the ice here and go to Victory Lane. We'll see if they can do that, but they just have to keep it clean, pick the right lanes, and avoid the carnage. 4 laps to settle it, plus a potential overtime. Just floating it out there.
We may have those attempts at the end of the race, but again, going to try to not talk about that too much. We've jinxed it before. May jinx it again. Restart happening inside. 4 laps to go from Auto Club. James Bickford, your race leader. Adam Cabot outside row number 1. David Schildhouse and Matt Stolneck to follow in row 2. Presley Sora to round out your top 5. Nick Olson, Justin Malillo, Joey Padgett, Will Rogers, and Max Cannon in the 21. Complete your top 10. Could this be the final restart of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200? We will find out as the inside again goes off a rocketing start. Schildhouse going to follow in the tracks of the 29 back to turn 1.
James Bickford looking at the mirror as much, if not more, than he is looking at the front windshield right now. Cabot takes over position number 2, side by side for 4th between the 98 of Sora and the 41 of Matt Stolneck. Car slipping and sliding off the corner, but everybody is good down the back straightaway. Schildhouse crossing back over on Cabot. He wants 2nd. He's going for it on the bottom in 3.
He'll try for it. Cabot looking for the 3rd semi-lane. He'll look up to the outside wall. He'll try to mount to run off for the final corner. Caution flag is out. It looks like DJ Cummings involved. Oh! Huge slam by Case Collenbach. And there are more drivers stuffed up as well. The 07 of
Fort they're still wrecking.
Seth Eggert in the 57. Reed Wilson, Chase Cabry, Steve Alfont.
That wreck lasted an entire corner. Contact, it looks like, between DJ and Bell fans that kicked this whole thing off. Bell fans then got into Ronnie Osmer. Ford Martin got the wall and spun. That got the 94 again. Eggert had nowhere to go, and this is just the never-ending one here at Auto Club Speedway, and we are going to overtime here on M&R.
And like you said, Jacob, the theme of mistakes. I don't think this is necessarily a mistake by any means necessary. It didn't look like Cummings got stepped out by any means, or at least going into turn 3, just got tapped by George Balfans Jr. Here's a look from behind the wreckage. That's near Chase Cabre. That's Blake McCandless in the 4. Sideways, the smoke bill is up from Cummings, and he gets slammed by Collenbach. And then as they're all trying to escape, just again, the theme of drivers trying to slow down, getting away from wreckage, and instead they get involved in the wreckage because their cars step out. These cars are very tough to save as well. And then there's McCandless with front end damage at the end of it.
Oh, wow, yeah, it's a lot of damage for him. And he has already used his fast repair, too. So he is going to have to sit and fix that damage because he ain't going to be able to run with that amount of damage on the front end of that race car. Even though these things are shaped like bricks, you know, just the slightest bit of damage can really hurt your aero and really hurt your speed here.
And we have seen those larger tracks. As soon as you get a little damage, your speed significantly drops, and that's going to hurt there for McCandless. Unfortunate for our Toughco Flooring in-race supporter, and usually we would call him an in-race supporter because they're actually in the race, but he was more our in-race reporter, like somewhat more of an emphasis on that, just because he's been in the broadcast booth with us all season long, and we'll have him return in just a couple of weeks' time when we take our holiday break and we return in the new year on January 3rd. I believe that will be, yes, next gens at Talladega. So also, if we are about to go into what may be our overtime restart, in fact, it will be our first attempt of 3. We'll rack them up, have a restart here with roughly 2 laps to go. We'll try to finish this race under green. If a caution comes out before the leader gets to the whites, then we will have another restart. We'll try it all over again. And if the leader does get to the white flag, the race is official. We'll end it to the checker no matter what happens. If we exhaust all 3 attempts, whoever was the leader at the timing loop, by the time the last caution comes out, that will be your winner. We'll see if it's a 7th different. We'll see if it's a first repeat of Season 6. It's all a big guessing game by the time we head to the end of this one. Also to note, if you're loving the action here from Auto Club, you're loving our coverage on Podium Esports of the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 tonight, we'll stick around after the checkered flag waves for our Frontstretch Post-Race Show. Jared Haas and Brandon Hoff will take you through all of the details, the analysis, and what to look forward to into our final race of the regular season at Talladega into our Season 6 playoffs. So stick around, a lot more to come here on Podium Esports for tonight's race from Auto Club Speedway. All right, Jacob, final 2 laps. First attempt at a green-white checker. Number 1, are we seeing more than 1 attempt? But number 2, who are you looking at for this restart most notably?
I think they'll make it, but they're going to tear some stuff up on that last lap. And, well, my picks, Collins 17th and Blake is 21st. I don't think 20 cars are going to wreck here. So,
It's a tough call, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very tough call.
You know what? I'm going to go out of the box. And if this guy wins, it won't quite shuffle up the points as much as you think. I'm going to go with one Matt Stallneck. He's currently in the playoffs right now, just barely. This win would lock himself in and put him in a great spot going into Talladega in 2 weeks' time, where, you know, he won last time we were at Talladega. Don't forget that.
That's true. That is true. And Stallneck, I mean, give credit to him. The Crypto Autosport machine has been fast all race long. You can't discredit what Stallneck has been able to do. And still in a possibility to win this race. We've seen drivers from 5th all the way to 7th have a shot at moving all the way to the front in a matter of a couple of laps. We'll see if 2 laps is enough with James Bickford at the helm of the field. Bickford, Schildhouse, Cabot, Sora, and Stallneck, your current top 5, will try to end this race under green. Green-white checkered overtime attempt number 1 from Auto Club Speedway. Bickford up to the gas and back to green.
Great launch on the bottom there from Bickford as everybody fans out. Here comes Nick Olson up the outside. 1 car turning into the wall, and we've got a crash. Multiple cars involved. Josh Slate is around. 1 car hard to the inside wall. Jordan Buster. Blake McCandless is around once again. And we make it 1,000 feet before the caution flag comes back out here at Auto Club Speedway. The car that got turned up and into the outside wall first was Sage Karam. They all stacked up behind him. And we're back under the yellow tablecloth here from Auto Club.
And again, looked like a similar incident with Karam, a missed shift on the start. And just gets tagged in the back by Connor Berry, the rookie driver. And then everybody else just stacked up behind him. Colin Fern smacks into the back of Josh Slate in the 01, then gets in it. Jordan Buster in the 46. As Fern goes sideways at the top of the track, then they collect Blake McCandless, and Buster goes hard in the inside wall. And a beautiful throwback tonight for Buster. Unfortunately, it gets damaged. It's a throwback to Bill Zardo Sr.'s number 46 Dodge Charger that he ran. And Jordan Buster, the NASCAR Pinty Series spotter for JP Dumoulin. Unfortunately, gets caught up in it. Also, Blake McCandless, like we said, he's fallen the lap down, and he is on pit road fixing that car. So we do not make it past attempt number 1. We'll try and restack them again with Bigford, Childhouse, Cabot, Sora, and Olsen still your current top 5. But I really want to make this point as well, Jacob, because we've seen it so many times on every restart. That outside has struggled dearly. It hasn't really looked like an even split between inside and outside. We've just seen a lot of inside domination by the time they get to green. The guys on the outside, and I think Shieldhouse is thinking about this as well, just how much of a disadvantage they are at, just because they're on that outside. They can't predict the control car, and it's been such a big problem for them, and they've fallen back a lot of positions by the time they get to turn 1.
Yeah, it's so difficult, you know, at some of these tracks with the older pavement to get a good restart. We saw it at the old Atlanta Motor Speedway, where if you restart on the inside line, you are toast. You are going backward. And just the outside line was really dominant there on the restart. And I think that's kind of the same, or the invert of what we're seeing here, is just the inside line. You get a little more grip on the launch, and up on that outside, you just can't quite get the tires rolling the way you would like to. So we'll see how this thing goes, and you know, we're pushing it here on attempts. By the way, that'll be it for Sage Karam. He's going to have to park the car here. Second cause of caution point for him. So that's an automatic park for the rest of the race. So Sage Karam going to finish unofficially in the, well, right now it looks like maybe the 33rd, 32nd position. Blake McCandless is still on pit road. In fact, he towed it back to pit road. Not quite sure what happened with Blake, but he had to tow the car back onto the pit lane. DJ Cummings is back on the racetrack. He was in the pit lane for about 6.5 minutes fixing his car. And for Blake, I think he just stopped it and decided to tow it, knowing that, all right, well, there goes my shot to win the race. And I believe he may watch this one from the grandstands like Sage Karam's about to do here, as we should get one lap to green here, and we do.
And we do. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car, and again, tough break for Blake McCandless there. The 4 machine had been so consistent all race long, just got caught up with the bad luck. And like you said, Sage Karam officially out of this race. With the race control, Josh Mendoza having the second penalty of the night for Karam, and Karam will not be able to go 2 in a row. And hopefully we'll see him at the final regular season race and for the rest of the campaign once we head for the next gens at Talladega in a couple of weeks' time. And of course with the SLMs at Richmond, ARCA Daytona, Porsche 911s at Watkins Glen, and all the way to our season finale with the Xfinity cars at Homestead, Miami Speedway in mid-February. So we'll restack them and try again our second attempt of 3 at overtime in this next level racing throwback 200. James Bickford, your race leader, David Childhouse alongside in row 1, Adam Cabot, Presley Sora, the 17 and the 98, your 2 series champions from the past 2 seasons in 3rd and 4th. Nick Olsen back to the top 5. We've seen him have some troubles overall from Auto Club, but a nice rebound he can get, especially with the shot at the race win. Matt Stolnick, P6, P7 for Will Rogers, P8 for Joey Padgett, Justin Malillo, and Ryan Vargas to round out your current top 10. And how much will that change? We'll find out. A lot of questions yet to be answered in what's going to be the final 4 miles here in Fontana, California. Bickford looking for his first of the season. Shieldhouse looking for his second after Texas. Cabot, Sora also in the same predicament. Cabot looking for win number 1 of season 6. Sora looking for win number 2. And a lot still on the line. They'll head for the restart zone. The 29 will hop back on the gas pedal. Will ditch the 20 of Shieldhouse in second. And he misses a shift. Bickford slows down. And here comes the competition back to turn 1.
Oh, and he gets turned, trying to block Adam Cabot. Shieldhouse gets turned around. Everybody scatters. A big crash, a big pileup in turn number 1. One car upside down. It's Matt Stolnick. Chase Cabry's on top of another. Half the field is piled up in turn number 1. And James Bickford, all he had to do was get through the gears. He couldn't do it. Everybody scatters. And now your race leader is Presley Sora.
James Bickford misses the shift, and it gets everybody involved. Look at the replay right here. Slows down, the car shifts back, and Cabot looked to the inside. Bickford wanted to block. They make contact. Bickford slides into Shieldhouse and a Stolnick and a Paget, and then everybody else. Look at that huge stack of it. Stolnick goes end over end. And the biggest crash we see all night comes in turn 1 with 2 laps to go. Now 3 again. We'll reset for our final attempt at overtime.
That was ugly. On board, this is with Chase Cabry here. Hang on, he gets this right in the thick of it here. Some guys that made it through this wreck with Cabry, not one of them. So Presley got through it. Nick Olson, Malillo, Paget, Sabile getting through it. Adam Cabot is okay, I guess. He's given up a couple of spots though. Will Rogers, he is okay. He made it through that crash just fine. Leighton Sabile as well, and this actually gets Colin Fern back into this deal. Right now he's lined up in the 8th position. Unbelievable. And Cabot just misjudged it, just by an inch. As Bickford couldn't get going, and Cabot does make it through the carnage. And it looks like Cabot actually is supposed to be your race leader here. Based off of where they were at the time of caution, we'll see if Sora gives the spot up. Sora is kind of hogging P1 right now, not letting Cabot by. So
also note Connor Berry, the rookie driver, has also joined Sage Karam in that disconnect and DNF list, along with a couple of others that also includes Blake McCandless, Preston Pardis, and Mark Rubilis. So Barry out of this race. It looks like he'll line up 30th on the track, and he may get passed by Chase Cabry, who's still on the racetrack in pit road, currently counting up on what is a 2-minute pit stop for Cabry, looking to get his damage repair. And Cabry had already burned up his fast repair, and the same deal went for Barry. We'll see if Cabry can try and muster some last positions before this race is all said and done. But we're heading into our final attempt. They've already burned the first 2, so now it's do or die. Jacob, you've got those 2 laps, and if another caution comes out, it's out of your control, but the race will be decided. Whoever's out front, the timing loop, will get their win. And it looks like Sora might be right on the cusp of getting his 2nd of the season, becoming our first repeat winner of the campaign.
all right, here we go. Here we go, Kenneth. Official ruling from Josh Mendoza. Adam Cabot is your race leader, and Presley Sora's trying to fight this, but this has been reviewed by Race Control. Cabot's your leader, then it's Sora, the 24 of Nick Olson, Will Rogers, Malillo, the 2 of Robbie Lyons, the 25 of Leighton Sabile, the 86 of Colin Fern. So Adam Cabot is your race leader, and I understand what Presley Sora is saying that, iRacing scoring him as the leader. That's because he passed the start-finish line as the leader the last time by. It's not because he's actually the race leader. Adam Cabot was ahead at the time of caution flag, and he should be out in front here. We're doubled up for the restart, and Cabot looks like he's going to take the inside line here for our 3rd and final attempt at a green-white checker.
And that's possible, though. I mean, a lot of respect to Sora. I mean, he does not want to be outside row 1. We've seen how many times it's been a problem against the competition. You fall back to 3rd, maybe even 4th by the time you get to the first 2 corners, and you're already somewhat at a deficit. And then you add on the limited time, the 2 laps that are left, and you may have a recipe for disaster in terms of being competitive for the win. And so Sora trying to fight all that he can, but Adam Cabot, the 17, your season 4 champion, where he actually lifted the trophy from Virtual Auto Club in season number 4, will look to grab his first win of the season. He will have Presley Sora on the outside, Nick Olson and Will Rogers, the 7 and the 24 right behind them to help. And this is going to be a huge restart, and they're just going to have to hope, at least 2nd on back, that nobody stuffs it up, nobody gets into a crash by the time they get to turn 1. Is that going to be a concern? That is going to be a big concern, of course. I think if for Sora, you're going to need to do all that you can, but it's really going to be tough.
We'll see if they can do it. And they're going to try not to throw the yellow here, but if there's a track blocker, they are obligated to throw the caution. Otherwise, I think they're going to try and let them race back here. So if they can make it to turn 1, I think they're okay. But you know, they stack them up like that last time, and who knows what happens here.
Final 2 laps, final 4 miles in our last overtime attempt in this next level racing. Throwback 200 from Auto Club. Green fly back in the air, and once more, that inside rockets to the front to turn 1. They're battling for a second. Olsen to the inside. Sora looking to look back down low.
A beautiful restart from Adam Cabot, and that may have just sent that number 17 to victory lane. Nick Olsen trying to hold on to position number 2 down the back straightaway. Malillo trying to block Sabile. One car around in the background is Chris Weaver. Josh Balicki involved in that as well. We stay green. Here comes Will Rogers. He wants third from the 98. They're 3 wide for second, but it's all 17 and 3 and 4.
They're still 3 wide for P2. We saw George Balfans Jr. strike the outside wall into our interstate batteries. 1 to go from Auto Club Speedway. They're still duking it out for second, but they're letting Adam Cabot run away to look for his first win of season 6.
5-6 car length lead for the 17 of Adam Cabot going into turn number 1. Nick Olsen all the way up against the outside wall. Presley Sora down toward the bottom of the racetrack. Sora clear for position number 2. No, he's not. He slides. He holds onto the race car. Here comes the 24. They're wheel to wheel down the back straightaway for second. Adam Cabot still miles ahead of the rest of the pack as they rocket to turn 3.
4/10 of a second and counting. Mama Media versus Grit Esports for second. They'll slide at the track. Couple of cars go sideways, but Adam Cabot out of turn 4 will get career win number 4. Checkered flag. Adam Cabot wins the next level racing throwback 200 from Auto Club.
Wow. I mean, whew. Reed Wilson sent it into turn number 3 and cost Malillo a spot out of this, and maybe more guys out of this here too, because he just sent it into 3. He got Malillo loose. He chopped the nose of the 86. And yeah, it cost Malillo a spot. Fern actually gained a spot out of it. But that's just tough there for Malillo, because he was looking on the doorstep of a top 5. He comes home in 7th. But, you know, still his best finish of the year as Cabot gets to celebrate.
7th different winner of season 6. Win number 4 of Adam Cabot's M&R career. And much like he burned it down for a championship at Auto Club just a couple of seasons back, he burns it down with a win to get him into playoff contention. The 17 continues to burn the rears down from Auto Club Speedway. A fantastic race, and again, Presley Sora did all that he could to try and go against that call that Josh Mendoza made, that Cabot was the race leader after that last yellow. Just because that outside lane, it really becomes a disadvantage. Had to fight Nick Olsen tooth and nail to get to second. Couldn't even catch back up to Cabot. And the 17 parks it in to victory lane in his first one of the season and continues our trend of different winners. And it stays like that here from Auto Club Speedway. More to come on the other side here from Podium Esports and this next level racing throwback 200. Adam Cabot, your winner. We'll talk to your top finishers and more on the other side of the break.
I ain't trying to bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life.
This is an interstate battery. More pros trust this than any other out there. Yeah, more pros. More, even more pros. Keep going, Moss. Look, we're gonna run out of time before we run out of pros who like Interstate. I mean, we'll run out of time before we even run out of left-handed pros who knit. These pros are everywhere, which means so is this battery. Right around the corner, up the street, everywhere. Interstate Batteries, outrageously dependable.
Get the edge on your competition with P8 Performance Gummies. Formulated specifically for gamers and the esports industry, we packed our gummies with all the good stuff, including ingredients that are clinically proven to help tired eyes, improve reaction times, and help suppress computer vision syndrome. Take your focus and endurance to the next level and try P8 Gummies today. Now available at Procelerate.com. Plus, if you're mad about gaming, we're looking to partner with influencers just like you. Drop us a line at support at Procelerate.com to see if you qualify to try our gummies for free. It's officially game on with all new P8 gummies.
Visit our website at toughgoflooring.com.
The dust has settled. The sun continues to set over Fontana, California, and the Auto Club Speedway as we have just wrapped up the Next Level Racing Throwback 200 here for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries in our final attempt of overtime. It's Adam Cabot grabbing career win number 4, his first of the season. He will automatically lock into the playoffs in a couple of weeks' time. Nick Olsen just short of the checkered flag for him. He started 6th. He's been tin-toppy all over the field tonight, got involved in a couple of crashes, but a great rebound as he finishes inside P2. Presley Sora in the 98 from Mamba Media wraps up your top 3. Lane Sabile in the 25. Also a roller coaster evening for him, but the driver for Hog Tamers rather, ends up P4. Top 5 will go to Will Rogers in the number 7. Colin Fern, a strong car all race long, but could not be there at the end for the checkered. He ends up P6. Justin Melillo rounds out your top 7. It'll be a P8 effort for the Seminole, Florida native Robbie Lyons, your Season 3 champion. Joey Padgett in the 83 rookie driver goes from 24th to P9 at the end, and Ronnie Osmer started 10th. That's exactly where he finishes, P10 at the end for the 55.
Finishing in 11th, Gary Sexton. Nice little rebound for him. David Schildhaus falls to 12th. Michael Massey, a great finish for him in 13th. Max Kennan finishes 14th. Josh Balicki, remember, he wrecked on lap 2. He rebounds to finish in the 15th position. George Belfains Jr. had a rough go at it, but he comes home 16th. Seth Eggert, 17th. Jordan Buster, 18th. Ryan Vargas, a struggle for him in 19th. Case Collenbach rounding out the top 20.
Garrett Smithley, 21st, 22nd for Ford Martin. Steve O'Fawn, the 11, will be 23rd. It'll be 24th for Chris Weaver in the 8. Josh Slate wraps up the top 25, and followed by the last car on the lead lap at the end, Brett Baldyke, P26. Reed Wilson is the first car one lap down in 27th. James Bigford got caught up in a crash late in the going, trying to make a block on Adam Cabot. He finishes one lap down in 28th. Matt Stolneck also caught up in that big scuffle for turn 1, 29th. He will finish at the checkered. DJ Cummings wraps up your top 30, and then comes everybody 31st through 36. Connor Berry in the 02, Chase Cavery in 32nd, 33rd to Sage Karam in the 43, Blake McCandless in 34th, 35th for Preston Pardis, and Mark Rivelis, our first DNF of the night, wraps up our 36 car field. So it is back to victory lane for Adam Cabot, his 4th career M&R victory, but most importantly, his first of season 6 to finally lock himself in and get that golden ticket for the playoffs later this season. Adam, first of all, just give us your emotions, your thoughts after this win, because it felt like consistency had been your message all season long, but without that win, finally you grab it tonight.
Man, first off, what about that race? That was, I would say, probably the best race that Monday Night Racing has ever put on. I hope everyone who watched agrees with that. But also, how about that win there? Because, man, I'll tell you what, it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder to get wins in this league. And that makes each one more and more enjoyable. I mean, the competition just keeps stepping up every single season. And, you can put together a perfect race and just have a caution fall the wrong way, or just have someone really step up who, maybe hasn't normally been competing as well. And, it just makes it for a tough field to get wins in. But, man, to win in a race like tonight where it was just multi-groove, cars all over the track, I mean, Just incredible. Shout out to Atlas Hair Products, of course, for sponsoring me. And man, that's going to help even more with the regular season points championship, and then 3 points too for getting a win for the playoffs. So this is really, really shaping up to be, I think, a comeback postseason this year. So just to get that win. I mean, I already was pretty much locked in on points at this point, but to get that win next week at Talladega, I mean, it's just going to be going all out. So couldn't be happier to win tonight.
Like you said, the tough competition to win in a series like Monday Night Racing, and it felt like tonight, it felt like you really had to scrapple. Everybody did to go for first place. It was constant battles, lap after lap after lap, and even then with strategy, a lot of different calls for you, what seemed to be the largest challenge to overcome on the way, and trying to position yourself, most importantly, to a place where you could be up front in a green-white checkered restart and get the win like you did.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say when there's so many cautions. You're just trying to put yourself in a position, almost work the race backwards and think, all right, well, what's the earliest lap I could pit and still have decent tires at the end, but also have track position? And it definitely was a balance tonight. But I mean, I think it definitely had the good fortune of having a lot of cautions towards the end that kept some of the faster guys who did put on tires super late from getting back up through the field. But I mean, really down to the end, I was just trying to run through my head kind of every different scenario where to position myself on the restart, because starting on the inside in third isn't a great spot, but also starting on the outside, you're kind of the most disadvantaged car with the way these restart zones work. So, it was really unfortunate what happened with me and Bickford. He just, he threw what looked to me like a pretty late block, and I tried to cut down, and at that point, you can't just move on a dime in these cars. Once you commit to a trajectory, you can't really back out of it. So I hate that he got taken out in Schildhouse, and it looked like probably a pretty big wreck behind me. So I hate that happened, but I talked to Bickford, and it sounds like he's pretty understanding, and we're all good. But it was just a shame, since we were having such an amazing race up front. I was hoping to see a nice side-by-side, maybe 3 wide finish coming to the line. But the second I got that clean air, I knew that I had a pretty good shot there, because I definitely think I had that initial cold tire lap figured out pretty well.
Big win here from Auto Club. You are officially locked into the Season 6 playoffs for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Interstate Batteries. Adam, on behalf of our broadcast team at Podium Esports, congratulations on the win. Welcome to the playoffs, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks with the next gens at Talladega. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, you too, and can't wait.
So Adam Cabot in the 17 grabs his first win of Season 6, his 4th overall in his career. And just like you said, a big win for him to enter into the Season 6 playoffs. A driver who's also locked into the playoffs after a couple of weeks back at Indianapolis. It's Presley Sorrell, the driver who finishes 3rd. Jacob Hitz, you're caught up with him.
Presley Sorrell, I know you thought you had the race lead going into that final restart there. Take us through at least what you saw in the big crash on the second attempt at a green-white checker.
Yeah, well, first off, I was just excited I made it through. I thought that they were going to spin up into me, and I thought that was the race. But, yeah, it looked like I couldn't really see much from the pillar on the side of the car from what they were doing on the inside. But it looked like somebody missed a shift, and they all kind of ran over each other. And there was cars going left, cars going right. They were all over the place. But yeah, I thought that I got the lead out of it, and I was really, really excited. But apparently Adam hit the pit cone and went kind of into the pit exit, so it was scoring him wrong. So if that's the case, then that's totally the right call. I couldn't see it from my point of view just because I was driving and couldn't look at the replay, but I trust that was the right call. So yeah, I'm not mad about that. I'm happy with 3rd though. That's a good point. It's heading into one more race for the playoffs.
And take us into that final restart there. Obviously, the inside line was the preferred line on the restarts all night. Cabot got a great launch, and you were stuck up there on the outside, pretty much in no man's land.
Yeah, well, I may be the only one, but I actually preferred the outside lane for restarts. I liked the run that you could get off the top, and it was powerful. If you were at the top lane the right way, you could blow by people on the back stretch or the front stretch, depending on the turn. But Yeah, I was wanting to restart on the top every time. Every time I get the bottom, I'd be like, oh man, I got the bottom again. Because the bottom, once you get down into turn one, it just kind of, everybody files in and it's hard to really make any moves. So from a moves making perspective, I was wanting the top lane the whole time. I got it a couple times. My shifting wasn't the best probably at the end of the race, but I don't think it mattered much in the end. I think Cabot just got such a good jump on the last restart that he was already gone. So, and then once we got side by side, Adam was just driving away, and I kept saying, "Oh no, we're just giving it to him," because the longer we'd stay side by side and throwing sliders, the further he'd get. But nah, I had fun.
Nonetheless, top three, nothing to sneeze about, and another good run going into the final push toward the playoffs. Obviously, you're locked in. Best of luck next week at Talladega, or not next week, in 2 weeks. Happy holidays, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, and I'd like to give a big shout out to Shaq Igear. Got the glasses on right here, and Mamba Media, Roasted Gems Coffee, Skybox NASCAR, B-Blaze Vintage. Wearing a Rico Abreu shirt from him. Best vintage apparel in the world. Maconi Setup Shop, 213 Simware, Cosman for the awesome looking retro paint scheme. This thing looks sick. Wasn't technically a throwback, but it still looked awesome. Fit the vibe of the 87. So yeah, I'm excited for Talladega. It's gonna be wild though, especially with the next gen. So make sure you tune in because it's gonna be a fun one.
The defending champ, Presley Sora, P3 tonight from Auto Club Speedway. Back over to Kenneth, who's got somebody, I thought. Kenneth?
Well, I believe we're going to have Justin Malillo, the driver of the 53, who comes home in P7, but unfortunately we don't have him in the waiting room or the transfer room, so we'll see if we can try to get Malillo back up here. Malillo, a driver who will be 7 points out of the top 12 for the playoff fight going into the next gens at Talladega. That's also going to be big. We've seen Malillo be in spots like this before where he's been just right out of that cut line for the playoffs. Maybe we'll see that number 53 in the Traction.gg car go into a playoff fight for season number 6. Malillo with a great throwback as well. And I know Sora didn't necessarily have a dedicated throwback. It was a beautiful car for Shaq Igear. Malillo did have one. I mentioned it earlier in tonight's broadcast, the Irwin and Manfred Kramer 1975 Porsche 911. I think the only Porsche inspired somewhat paint scheme. A lot of the ones we've seen tonight were around NASCAR, stock car racing, but beautiful throwback for the pink and teal number 53. But Jacob, we'll try and wrap things up here from the Auto Club Speedway and a chaotic race. So we followed in, again, like I said at the top, 2 different types of chaos. Canadian Tire, we saw a lot of chaos from mistakes, single car incidents, drivers going off track, drivers hitting the barriers, drivers dropping back in the point standing significantly. Tonight felt like it was just a different type. A lot of passing, a lot of multi-groove racing, a lot of contact, a lot of 3 and 4 wide racing. And if we thought 3 and 4 wide racing was going to be only done for Auto Club, I think we'd be significantly wrong because we've got Talladega in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the madness has only begun with Talladega in 2 weeks' time, especially with the next-gen cars. And we're going to see guys that are on the outside looking in that are going to be making big moves, kind of like we saw tonight, with their backs up against the wall, like a Rajah Caruth. Like somebody, now that points are pretty much official, like somebody like Justin Malillo, who is 7 points out. Ford Martin is only 9 points out. Garrett Smithley, he's only a couple out as well. DJ Cummings, Preston Pardis, James Bickford, who was somebody that was so close in winning the championship in Season 5. He is some 18 points out from the cut line. He still has a shot. As I mentioned, Rajah Caruth. There are about a dozen or so guys that are trying to fight for getting a shot at racing in the M&R playoffs here in Season 6. And it's going to come down to just about every single move between now and Talladega in 2 weeks' time and the end of that race to see who gets in and who is out.
So it looks like we do have a chance to talk with the driver of the 53 who comes home in P7, Justin Malillo. And Justin, I know this race was wild from start to finish, but one thing was for certain, you had a very fast car, very fast Ford Thunderbird behind the wheel. Just give us your experience and, of course, that mindset, the POV into the final 2 laps on that 3rd overtime restart.
Well, it's crazy because I've been playing around with the Buick for the last couple of weeks, months, and I just couldn't find any speed in this car. This is one of my favorite cars, the 87, and I just could not find any speed in the Buick. And back in the Thunderbird tonight and we were top 5 speed in this traction.gg for Thunderbird. It was really fun, really great to be up in the front for most of the night. We did fall back to about 27th on a poor strategy call is what I'll call it, but it ended up working out because we could stretch the fuel and we had the tires just in case. So it worked out. I could have had 6th, I could have had 5th, ended up with 7th. We're going to go into the regular season finale in 2 weeks, and we're going to be where we always find ourselves, right on the outside looking in. If the points are correct, I'm 7 points out heading into Talladega, and it just feels like deja vu all over again.
It's a magic number, 7 points going into Talladega. So with that in mind, and with how close you are, how is the motivation? What's the mindset looking like for Talladega? Are you going to go all aggressive? Or are you going to be a little more conservative? How are you going to play that race to ensure you're going to be part of the season 6 playoffs?
I don't even know. It's a different race every year, and somehow, some way, for the last season 3, season 4, season 5, the last 3 seasons, something has happened that has knocked me out in the last race when I've had a chance. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know that answer. I know super speedways are probably one of my best on the service is racing to super speedways, and I really feel comfortable in that. And I felt really comfortable tonight, and tonight felt like a mini super speedway the way we were all jammed in there, all packed up like sardines. So I don't know. It felt good up front. It might feel good up front next week. I think we're gonna have to play it by ear though, and just feel it out. I mean, I really want to be a part of the playoffs again. It's been, since season 1 that I haven't been a part of the playoffs, and season 1 we made it pretty far. So I just want to get back there and see if we can't find that magic all over again.
It's going to be a big race when we take the green in a couple of weeks' time. Justin, first of all, we appreciate the time, and you were talking us. Congratulations on the top 10 here, the P7 here tonight from Auto Club Speedway. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we wish you the best of luck into the race, into the next 2 weeks for the regular season finale. We'll see you there.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you, Kenneth.
So Justin Melillo in the 53 brings the Traction.gg Ford Thunderbird to P7 here from Auto Club Speedway and this next level racing Throwback 200. That would do it for our coverage, at least on our side. Jacob and I is concerned, of course, on behalf of Jacob Hitz and Blake McCandless for all their work. I know McCandless was on the track tonight, but had a lot of insight as our Toughco Flooring in-race reporter. That'll do it for us, but we will toss it over to the man of the minute and the other man alongside him, the man of the hour for the Frontstretch Post-Race Show, Jared Haas and Brennan Hoff. Take it away, guys.
What is going on, folks? My name is Jared Haas. A little bit different. I'm not Michael Massey, but I'm still joined by Brandon Hoff in this week's edition of the Monday Night Racing recap here on Frontstretch. Adam Cabot secured the win after a late race overtime caution caused chaos throughout. Brandon, it was interesting racing to say the least, too. A lot of cars, when they were side by side, the field would pack up together. But once the leader got one by, single file, they kind of just spread it out. And you took earlier to the track and did some testing. What did you notice with the 1987 cars on this rough and tumbled Auto Club track?
My first impression stepping on the track before were these cars are a handful. Like, you're going 190 down the straightaway, and you have to drop down to like 145, 150. Like it always was in NASCAR, where you're high horsepower on the straightaway, low downforce in the corners. You have to slow down about 40 miles an hour. And it was a handful. I couldn't imagine in a pack. I was just testing by myself. But these guys in the pack, I mean, they did a great job all night. I know there were the fair share of wrecks, but for the most part, I was very entertained. Everybody who watched this race should have been entertained too. I mean, it was an incredible showing. I mean, we saw 3-4 wide, and honestly, taking to the track before, I did not expect the race we had, honestly. Not to the entertainment aspect, but to the racing aspect, where we would have this tight field, like first to about 20th, separated by like 3 or 4 seconds. I thought for sure, we'd have maybe a little bit more spread out field to where, we'd have maybe 1st to 5th packed together, and then, maybe 6th to 10th. But it was a pretty tight field all night, really competitive. But you know what? It made for an entertaining race. And the fact that multiple grooves came in, perfect. It was honestly perfect if I had to use a word.
I feel like this race is a pretty good example of kind of what this season's been all about. You've had a lot of different storylines come in and out, a lot of contenders. A lot of people were up front of the late in the race. You know, a lot of people could want it late race caution, threw everything aside, but 7 races into this Monday Night Racing Championship, 7 different winners. Adam Cabot wins at Auto Club. My question is, now, this feels like the NASCAR Cup Series season this year.
Yeah.
Where we seems like we have a different winner every single time. Do you feel like there is a favorite of the winners, or even someone that hasn't won, that is a championship favorite coming into this Monday Night Racing season 6?
You know, I've thought about this for like the last 2 weeks or so, but I really don't think there's a true favorite this season. Like, and we've asked drivers on the show before, is this the most competitive season of Monday Night Racing that we've seen? And every single driver has said yes. Like, this is the most competitive they've ever seen this league. And I believe it. I mean, you have 20, 25 different drivers on any given week, depending on the track and car combo, that can win. And, you know, like you said, 7 different winners, 7 races. I mean, next is Talladega. And that has the potential to give us an 8th different winner. So, you know, the parity is crazy. I mean, and especially with the different track and car combos, you really can't pick a true favorite. Of course, you're going to have the fast guys who are there all the time, you know, like a Presley Sora or even Adam Cabot who won the night, Colin Fern, you know, all those guys who have been up front all season. You know, you can probably label them as favorites, even David Shieldhouse or anybody like that. But you can't really say, oh, this guy is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody. He's the favorite. Even in the Cup Series this year, you know, you can kind of pick out maybe 2 or 3 guys, but in this league, you really can't. And especially with the way the playoffs work and the rounds and all that, it's really competitive. And, you know, coming down the stretch, and especially next week, or 2 weeks, I should say, because next week is Christmas break, it's going to be a crazy race at Talladega. And I'm looking forward to it because I know there's going to be some guys missing the playoffs that you could say, hey, if they were in, they could definitely win the championship. So, you know, it's going to be wild.
Absolutely. And this race is so chaotic. We got to give a shout out to our front stretcher's own Michael Massey. He ended up with a 13th place finish. Season best finish for Massey this season. Avoided the wrecks. He had one time when I believe Sage Karam got in the rear with him and during one of the cautions, but Massey kept his nose clean throughout the entire race. And the 1 week he has off for the post race is his best finish.
Yeah, no, right?
He'll have to inform us after the break too, but don't worry, Michael Massey will be back. But I do believe we're going to be joined by, first guest is going to be Mr. Adam Cabot here. He's the ERL champion and season 4 Monday Night Racing Championship. Adam, take us through those last 2 laps with us. I mean, you had obviously the restart before with that big wreck, and then on the restart, at the final restart, you were able to pull away when the racing was so much side by side. How were you able to do that on the final restart?
Man, I'm not going to tell you.
First of all, any typical driver would say.
Nice try, but no. First of all, thanks for having me. I know I was supposed to be on a couple times, so it's good to finally be here. But yeah, I don't really know what exactly I was doing on like that initial first, second lap run. I mean, it was the same thing with qualifying where I didn't really even feel like I'd put down that good of a lap, but clearly I was doing something that the rest of the guys weren't on that quick 1 or 2 lap run. And once the tires cooled off and we had all those cautions towards the end, you know, I can say I certainly didn't plan on wrecking the entire field there. That was certainly not how I had it. You know, I went through pretty much every scenario in my head of what could happen there at the end, and that was not on the list. So still hate that happened, even though, you know, really, Bickford made a late move. And I think I said in my post-race interview, like, you can't really, once you commit to a trajectory, you can't really back out of it in this car. It's just, this thing, it's big, heavy, has a mind of its own. But once I got that lead and I knew it was the final green-white checker and we were going green to the end no matter what, I felt really confident. I knew that with that clean air and that speed I seemed to have in the initial lap or two, that I was hoping that I could pull out like I did and just not have to even worry about them drafting up to me. And luckily they got to battling pretty quickly behind me, got 3 wide. And at that point, I knew that I just had to not mess up the last lap and a half, and I pretty much would have it in the bag. So that was, that's how it all unfolded there.
Yeah, for sure. That was I tell you, from where I was standing the entire night, I spot for Nick, and he finished right behind you. And I know from my vantage point, it was insane. But aside from tonight, take us through your season. I mean, you've been a model of consistency. Any track, any car. You kind of remind me of how Presley's been. You and Presley both, you made it through like the connecting series, I guess you can say. And then you come in here, you both win a championship 2 seasons in a row. And now this season, you both are again having very strong seasons. You're at the top of the playoff standings, I believe, now after the win. What's your confidence level like going into, you got Talladega next, but then you kind of can relax now, and then you get into the playoffs. But what's your confidence level like for this season?
So this is a 2-part answer, because on one hand, I would say sky high. I've kind of been on a little bit of a hot streak the last couple weeks in the other league I compete in, below the WL. They're a awesome, fun league, great group of guys. So highly recommend them to anyone who's looking for a Xfinity Series league for next season. But yeah, it's weird, with iRacing and real racing, you can in really any sport or competition, you can be on it and in the zone. It seems like you're just, all you can do is win, but that can go away quickly. Like the last 4 months before a couple weeks ago, I didn't want to race in anything. And it can be frustrating because, like you said, I've had a strong season up to this point, specifically in Monday Night Racing, where I'm getting, I think my worst scored finish with the drop week was 6th this year, which is insane. Like I would have never predicted that or expected that, especially in a league with as much, I would say, routine chaos as Monday Night Racing usually has. But yeah, I kind of accepted last week. Like last week, I put a lot of effort into the road course up in Canada, the next gen car, because I know people don't think of me as a road course driver, and I don't really even think of myself as a road course driver. But I really, something with that car has really clicked with me, and I've gotten some more experience on road courses. And I thought, man, if I practice for this race, I could go out there and potentially win and get some playoff points. And then Sage Karam showed up, and he had other ideas, and he showed me what real pure raw speed on a road course looks like. And that was kind of a bummer, because I'm like, man, that was probably my last real good shot to get a win this season. I honestly didn't really put any practice or effort into tonight, besides from joining the quick practice race they had last night. So I kind of went in just figuring, hey, if it actually ends up being multi-groove like a lot of people think it will be, there'll be plenty of lanes to pass. I was shocked to get the pole, but at that point I knew that starting position, you can start anywhere and win these races, but it's so much easier when you can start up front. And besides from a couple weird caution sequences, I think I pretty much stayed in the top 5 most of the race. So yeah, I'm not even sure what your question was at this point, but it's been a great season.
All right.
And yeah, I just, like I said, I wasn't really expecting really anything at tonight, especially with Blake in the race. I knew he had to start tail end of the field, but he's so good in these cars. I knew he'd be a factor, and he was, and he did the best job saving his tires. But you just got to be in the right position, right spot, right time, right place at the end of these races. That's what counts. You got to be able to execute at the end and not be afraid to be aggressive too, because if you have the speed, it doesn't do you any good if you kind of just lay over a little bit in those more aggressive, more those green-white checkers and chaotic racing towards the end. So I've kind of had to, I would say, up the aggression level of my driving a little bit and make some more daring moves I wouldn't normally make. And part of that also comes with having a big points lead and having that buffer. So yeah, it's just been a great season so far. And to get that win, it definitely feels like getting the monkey off my back, since I hadn't won this season up until now.
And did you run in season 4 at Michigan with the 1987 cars?
I did, and I feel like I remember getting wrecked out on lap 3 or something. I remember being in the top 5, and I think TJ Majors looped it and caught me, and I guess I burned my fast repair, and I don't know what happened after that, but yeah, that's kind of what I looked back towards, because I don't really have much experience in the 87 cars, but every single time I run them, I'm like, why don't I run these more? They're so much fun. And yeah, I mean, tonight's race, the whole time I was driving, I was like, this has to be the best race of the season. Like, I don't know what it looked like on the broadcast, but it had to have been exciting.
And that's what I was going to lead into with 1987 is Michigan's a little bit more of a, modern track. Auto Club, original service from 1997. How much was tires a factor to the 1987 cars on the Auto Club surface?
They were a factor, but they weren't as much of a factor, weren't nearly as much of a factor as I thought they'd be. We saw a lot of guys stay out and be able to maintain that track position towards the end. There was a lot of chaos towards the end too, so it's hard to tell without me actually going back and look at the broadcast. But like Blake, when he pitted, I was like, oh man, that's not good. Like last thing we used him on fresh tires, and I don't know, he might have gotten caught up in a wreck or something, but he didn't really make the advancement I thought he might. But it seemed like it was more just about managing the tires than like on iRacing lately, and pretty much all of the oval cars, everything is just about tire saving, and you don't even want to run anywhere off the bottom, otherwise you're just going to kill your tires and drop backwards. And honestly, it's kind of killed the racing in a lot of the different cars at most tracks. Like for example, Auto Club in the Xfinity car, like if we ran the high side as much as we were tonight, you can make it work for a lap or two and have speed up there. Your tires would just be dead. So that was shocking to me. I can't believe that we were actually able to move around. I really haven't experienced that at all in iRacing since the new tire model came out. So to see that tonight, I mean, I think that we can say for pretty much sure that this race car track combo is going to be on the schedule for future seasons to come, because that was incredible.
It was definitely, I think you nailed it. I think it might have been the best race of the season. So, yeah. And, you could say you won the best race of the season. That's a pretty good honor to say, any season of this league. But real quick, you've been on iRacing a while. You made it through, like I said, the supporting series. What's it like having all the iRacing experience you've had, through the years, running leagues and official races or really anything like that? And then stepping in a series like this with all these industry guys and, guys that might not have as much experience, but, there are some guys who are really good on the sim. And at least when you stepped in, they had less experience, but they were still really good. But what's it like to you, somebody who hasn't really been in the industry, just like an outside sim racer, and then you get in this and you're instantly able to compete with these guys and you're noticed right away?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really been a privilege to be able to race with the guys in this league. Certainly when I first started out, I mean, I'll try to summarize this quickly if people don't know, but I got in through the Esports Racing League, which basically early spring of last year, Anthony Alfredo decided to host a 5-race shootout essentially for any iRacer who's less than 6,000 iRating, which, if you're above that, you're probably going for the Coke Series, trying to qualify for esports. I was just under that mark, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll give this a shot, but really genuinely not expecting to actually have a chance at winning. And I was actually, Presley Sora was my main competition in that 5-race shootout, and I think he won 2 races, I won 3, and it came down to like final laps at, of course, Auto Club in the Xfinity car, me passing him to get. It was almost like the Tony Stewart Carl Edwards type battle in 2011, where it just came down to a couple points, and I got Presley to transfer into the league. And I mean, it was just an incredible opportunity. I actually felt a little bit bad for Presley at the time because I didn't know that they were gonna have the road to glory for the future seasons and give him and others an opportunity to transfer. So I'm glad to see that he did end up getting to also race with us, because he's a really, really good driver as well. But yeah, to have that experience, I mean, it really I think going through that many high pressure situations through iRacing really prepared me for Monday Night Racing, especially for about a year ago when I was, on stage in Charlotte for the season 4 finale, because that was just like genuinely surreal for me, because I'm just like your average everyday sim racer, and all of a sudden, I'm just kind of find myself in a position where I'm up on stage with Alfredo and Vargas and all these guys, and yeah, definitely could have never planned it out that way, but it's like I said, really just a privilege to compete with these guys, and it's it's cool to see how far the league's come in really just a couple of years.
Thank you, Adam, very much for your time, and congrats on your win this season, getting yourself locked into the playoffs.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, congrats, Adam. Thanks.
That was Abbott Cabot for you guys. And next up, we got someone who had scored his best season finish this season with a 4th place finish, survived the carnage. We're joined by Leighton Sibile. Leighton,
hey guys,
you made it through that wreck somehow. I feel like I have to ask every driver what was their view from that wreck, because that took out a lot of good cars in that end of the race.
Well, I gotta say which one, because it felt like every
big one.
Every race car I was driving by him, right in the middle of them for the most part. It was a pretty hectic race. I'd like to say that's about par for the course here with the Monday Night Racing series. It's it's a really fun series, and there's a lot of talented guys out there. But it seems like we kind of get on the wild side there. And the biggest thing is, if you're able to avoid all that carnage and just keep yourself away from all the messes, you should be able to be in contention by the end of the race. And that's exactly what we did on our number 25 Toughco flooring.com Pontiac tonight. Not a Chevy, but yeah, it was a fun race overall. I had a great time.
And you had quite an interesting excursion in the middle of the race. I was watching, it was like lap 44 through 46. Seemed like you were right in the middle of, there was 3 different cars. Smithley slid, then Vargas slid, and then yourself slid on lap 46. How did that handling difference? What's the difference between a 1987 car or comparative to like ARCA, Xfinity, next gen type of cars? Those seem to be really tough, especially off those corners.
Oh yeah, I gotta say, these cars, they don't really drive like anything else that's on the service. I have very minimal experience when it comes to running this car, just because of that. It's so different from everything else that we run out there. And tonight, for example, for the most part, you'd kind of float into the corner, you almost had a diamond in the corner because it was so tight. And then once you would get it turned back down to the bottom, it just the rear end would kind of slide out from under you, and so it was really hard to handle, especially once you got out there on old tires. There was a lot of slipping and sliding. We had a couple close calls there, but at the end of the day, we had fun, and we had a shot at it, and that's all I could ask for.
I want to know too. Go ahead.
No, sorry, Jared. Leighton, I know the season hasn't been the greatest so far. You've had your fair share of good runs, though, like tonight. I know tonight was probably by far, I know a lot of drivers will probably say this, it was probably their favorite race of the season, just because of the way you had to work the grooves and, the chaos. I mean, it might have been wild and stressful, but you finished 4th out of it. And now next week you're at Talladega. What's your outlook going into next week? Because I know the points are not looking great, but what's your main goal next week? I know it's probably to win, but really, what's the realistic outlook going into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you touched on it there. I'm going to Talladega to win the race. That none of the other stuff matters to me, and I think it's very possible for us to. Unfortunately, like you said, we haven't had the season that we've needed on our team, and other than the fact that Corey Heim has been able to win and lock himself into the points. I mean, our other teammates on the Hog Tamers team, we've kind of been struggling. I had a mechanical issue when we were trying to qualify our way into the show at the beginning of the season in Talladega. My pedals weren't fully connected, I guess, and so we went home and we weren't able to race. And that was a big disappointment to us, because I feel like every time that there is a chance to run at the super speedways, you'll typically try to see me up front. I run the plate tracks a bit different than some of my other competitors. I'm always aggressive when it comes to those races. Next week, my main goal is to, stay up front and block runs and be aggressive and make a statement that, look, I haven't had the season that I've wanted and, that I might have probably deserved. We've had a couple wrecks in the past couple races, and, that's really hurt us in the points. But But hey, look, I mean, last year when we went to Talladega, I don't know if I was leading on the white flag or if I was running second. Regardless, coming through the trial, I had a legitimate shot at winning the race, and I got past or barely lost by not even 3 or 4 inches to Anthony Alfredo, I believe. And especially with the next gen package, with how aggressive you need to be on the side drafts, that's going to be big. My main goal is trying to stay up front. I know I've got 2 really good teammates in Corey Heim and Will Rogers that are going to be pushing me, and we're going to be aggressive. Look, Corey's locked in. Will's, I believe he's looking pretty decent on points. But I need to win a race, and I'm going to do everything in my ability to do that next week, because I think, if we get into the playoffs, there's some really good tracks that I have a little bit more in my wheelhouse. Especially if we start running the Xfinity car and the truck, we get some good trucks and good cars. So I'm gonna be as aggressive as I possibly can and try to bring home the win for our Tough Co team.
Well, you heard it here first. Leighton trying to go for the win at Talladega. Get to celebrate a career season best 4th place finish here at Auto Club. Leighton, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. And just before I go, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone at Petty GMS. I know there's a few guys that are back home watching this, and it's been a really fun season so far, and we're going to try to do everything we can. And I wouldn't be here, running every week without everyone at toughgoflooring.com. If you need any industrial flooring, please make sure to go check them out. They're also a big supporter of Noah Gregson, who is coming to our team this year, so we're excited. So thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Leighton.
Yep.
And now we got another guest as well, too. This person looked like he had an incredible run through the field, got up there, just had not a good restart, got involved in other wrecks as well. He was in the broadcast booth for other races, but decided to join in. Blake Canadlis, joins us here. Blake, I gotta first ask you, you didn't even take a qualifying run. Did you plan that to run from the rear of the field up to the front? Because you absolutely did that, but was that planned or not?
It was planned to start the race that I wasn't gonna pull a qualifying time. I have a lot of experience with these cars, and I kind of wanted to let these guys race it out a little bit. Like I know being a broadcaster and coming in for one race, we're kind of getting in towards the end of the regular season and getting towards the playoffs. So I know that I don't want to be shaking it up too much with those guys. 'Cause I know they're racing for a lot. They've been doing this for a full year, so wanted to give them a little bit of space, but and also just kind of wanted to take the opportunity to learn. I put on a lot of events on iRacing in these 87 cars, and this is a great opportunity to kind of be in traffic and learn what lanes work, how the car works, and where you want to go to try to make moves and everything. So it was an opportunity to learn, and also a chance to let those guys race it out a little bit. But once we kind of worked our way towards the front, I mean, you saw it was all fair game at that point.
Yeah, definitely. First, I have to say, Blake, I'm a big fan of the hat. Hartford
thank you.
Whalers.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. A vintage NHL guy there. But anyway, like you said, you've been in so many big races on iRacing. I mean, you've been in the broadcast booth, you've been in pro, road to pro, all that. What's like the stress level or the pressure level in a league like this compared to, let's say, a road to pro or a pro series? I mean, you've done it all, and you've been successful in all of it. So really, what's the difference, or is it kind of similar in a way?
I mean, I would say tonight was just about having fun for me. So there wasn't really a lot of stress. I know a lot of these guys, again, they're running for points. They want to run at the live championship event in Charlotte and whatnot. So I think there's a little more pressure. For me, tonight was just, go out, have fun. If we win, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. I wasn't really worried about where I finished tonight. I wanted to race with these guys, and honestly, me, David, James, Adam there for a little bit. We had some great brawls up at the front of the field. So that's the type of stuff I'm here for. If we didn't win, it stinks. Of course, I want to win, but at the end of the day, I was just here to have fun. So I wouldn't say there was too much stress. It's different. There's really nothing like competing in those kind of top split road to pro races and contender races, anything that's kind of leading up the competitive ladder, just because everyone in the field is just so good. One of the nice things about M&R is that there's such a diversity of talent. You have guys who are relatively new to the sim, who have been in racing a long time, but maybe don't have a lot of time on iRacing, versus, people who have a ton of time on the sim, and that's what they're primarily known for as sim racers, and everybody in between, real life guys who kind of use it to stay sharp and everything. The one thing that kind of, I guess, separates the stress level between the two is the fact that, in a field like this, I started at the back. I kind of took things easy. I could kind of pace myself, save a little bit of tire, and still kind of make my way towards the front of the field. And a lot of that top split, top competitive stuff with eNASCAR. I mean, if you start at the back of the field, you are in for a dogfight. You are fighting tooth and nail, inch by inch for every spot. I mean, you can race the hardest you've ever raced in your life, and you'll go from 32nd to 25th. That's just how good everybody is at that level. And so the stress in that is very high, because you put a lot of time into it. You spend 2 weeks on your setup, tweaking every little thing and whatnot. So there's a lot more that builds into that. So stress level is pretty high in that, but tonight was just all about fun for me. So I wasn't stressed at all. But I know for a lot of these guys, that don't have the time and they do a lot of other things and are in the motorsports industry, this is kind of their version of that. So I know that they put a lot of time in practice. The practice races are usually pretty populated. I think I even made a comment on my stream before this race started that I've never seen 30 people connect to a race an hour before it starts to practice. People put in a lot of time for this league, so I'm sure for the rest of the competition, there's a little more, on the line and at stake in this league.
In the broadcast booth, you have to be a multitasker, have to deal with what's going on, talk about what's going on. This was a little bit different as in the perspective that you're racing, and they kind of did it like a Tim Richmond style of in-race reporter too. How did you balance and doing those multitasking and compare it from being in the booth to actually racing the car and being the in-race reporter?
Well, I have a fair amount of experience, I guess, driving and talking to myself or Twitch stream. Like I stream quite often on the sim. And so whether, I don't know, I just have a lot of experience being able to drive and kind of articulate what I'm saying. I mean, heck, in different moon car races and whatnot, I've been the broadcaster while also driving, so it doesn't really I guess become overwhelming because I've done it so many times before. Broadcasting, I would say, is a totally different animal just because it's so open-ended. When I'm driving and when I was talking earlier, I wasn't as cohesive in my thoughts as I would have liked to have been, but I'm just kind of articulating what I'm thinking, what lanes I'm looking at, executing and getting a good restart, and I can do that pretty well just because I've had so much experience with it. Broadcasting is a totally different ball game because although you're multitasking, you're listening to your partners, you're trying to pull up notes, you're trying to obviously stay in tune with everything that's going on with the race, trying to mention what's important and think about guys that you have talked about, haven't talked about, things you wanted to mention at a point in the race, and kind of keeping track of everything. So I would say the broadcasting, the mental side of broadcasting is probably a little more difficult, whereas driving was pretty straightforward. You just take the race, and whatever you're thinking at that time, you can just say. It's a little more straightforward.
Now, Blake, you obviously have been in the broadcast booth the entire season, and I know you're out there tonight. But what's your perspective on what the season's been like so far? I mean, we have one race of the playoffs now. We've had 7 different winners in 7 races. I mean, what have you seen from the booth there? I mean, you've called every race, and you could see the competitive level that every single race is, especially tonight with the way it was. I know you're out there, but we thought, and I think we can agree, that tonight might have been the best race of the season. But really, overall, what have you seen from all these guys compared to, let's say, past seasons?
I mean, the one thing I've seen, and I've just seen over time is just how much these races are never really over until they're over. There's so much that can happen late in these races, and always tends to happen in a way. I mean, even tonight, we had a long green flag run going, and things were going to play out. We were looking like we were in a good spot, and then a yellow comes out, and you kind of have to readjust and get ready for that. But I think it's shaping up to be a really interesting playoffs. Like you said, 7 different winners. We'll try to get, I'm sure, an 8th next week because there's so many, different people that can win in this league. I would say the one thing that was different about the driving perspective is, I'll kind of keep tabs on what people are saying and kind of how the vibe of the race is, what people are saying, but getting down and being able to drive with these guys and really, just be able to focus on that competitive aspect. I mean, people take this league really, really serious. They get upset, they get emotional, they're passionate, and that's something that, I obviously knew in the booth that is a part of kind of what drives everybody's interest in this league, but I didn't know kind of the degree to which it is. And, at the end of the race, when everybody's running into issues and running into each other and everything, you get to kind of hear that raw emotion and because you're tuned in a different way. So I'd say that was the one thing that was a little bit different, kind of taking it in from the car, was just, how passionate, I guess, everybody gets.
You had obviously a pretty good run going. Is there a chance for a redemption race sometime down the line with you driving, whether it's season 6 or future seasons?
Well, I definitely don't want to step in during the playoffs. So I have no plans to run it. It was just a one-off for at least this season. But any time that they bring out, the 87 cars and it's a regular season race, I'd love to be a part of it, because this car to me is the most fun on the sim. Every single race they've had in this league, whether it's Auto Club, whether it's Michigan, you get these cars at Talladega or Daytona. There's just, to me, everybody has the one car that they love driving on the sim, whether it's the truck or, something on the road side of things, a big block modified on dirt. I mean, everybody kind of has one car they favor, and this has always been mine. I love running this car. It's a lot of fun. I think, the skill gap in it is probably one of the wider ones that we see on the service right now. So you feel like you have a lot of control as a driver over what you can do and how to make speed, and it just makes it a blast. So if they bring these 87 cars back out again, I'm game. I definitely enjoy broadcasting, and it's fun to watch these guys every Monday night. But I get still have a little bit of a competitive itch in me. So if they bring these cars out and it's a regular season race, I don't see where maybe we'll try to race again.
This is Blake McCandless. Thank you very much, and we'll see you back in the broadcast booth when the calendar turns over for 2023 at Talladega. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Jared. Brandon, thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you. And now we're going to be looking into hopefully the ahead of Talladega. And we got the playoff standings as they run right now. Adam Cabot secures his way into the, like I said, locks himself in. But you see some other drivers. Look at that cutoff line. It looks pretty intense as well. Brandon, who are you watching for the, like I said, for this cutoff line? Who's going to get in? Who's not going to get in? Who are you looking out for at Talladega?
I have 2 names here that I'm going to be looking out for at Talladega. And one of them I spoke to actually off the air right before this. Justin Malillo, he told me he has something happen to him every single cutoff race, no matter what it is, to keep him out of the playoffs. He's only 7 back now. And I know Talladega, anything can happen. But I just have a small feeling that his luck will turn around. And I have a feeling he gets in. On whose expense? I don't know. It's tough to say. I mean, we have a tie there between Stolnick and Vargas, which is crazy going into the final race before the playoffs. But, I'm looking for Justin. Look at the guys inside the cutoff. Colin Fern is pretty safe, I think. So is Joey. I think Will is safe too. But once you get Nick Olson down, it's tight. And especially, look at that. Robbie Lyons in 20th. Only 20 back. I mean, this is going to be a very tight battle. There's a lot of guys that I think will make a run towards making it in from the outside. I mean, 9 points even to Ford Martin is nothing when it comes to Talladega. Obviously, 10 on back, it's going to be a little difficult, but it's a tight battle right now. I don't know if we've seen a tight battle like this from, let's say, 10th to 20th in seasons past. And that just goes to show what this league has become and how competitive it is from top to bottom. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to see an incredible race. I think the points battle is going to be something we need to watch from the drop of the green flag up until the checkered. It's going to be wild, I think, to say the least.
Absolutely. When you have a tie like that, that's going to get in the nitty gritty right there. And
Yeah.
one thing to know, we are returning to Talladega Super Speedway. This is the only track that MRN is returning to. Yes, they're returning back to Daytona, but that was the road course with Mazdas. And then you're running ARCA with the Super Speedway race. Four of the top 5 finishers in that season opener at Talladega have won. You had obviously Garrett Smithley, who won the race. You have Presley Sora. You had David Schillhouse, and then our most recent winner that we interviewed, Adam Cabot. So I feel like the cream is going to rise to the top on this occasion, and there could be a good chance that we could have a repeat winner for the first time in Monday Night Racing in the regular season finale at Talladega. Now, with the season opener, the big difference is this is going to be a next-gen race. The season opener was a Car Tomorrow race. As we look at the schedule here, Brandon, what is the differences and similarities to the next-gen car versus the COT at Talladega?
I think the number one difference is the horsepower difference. I mean, you're going in the COT on iRacing, it's unrestricted. If for our viewers, back about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, iRacing made the COT. They took the restrictor plate off of it, and it's completely unrestricted. So you can go in a big pack about 240 into a corner, which is crazy. I mean, that's on the verge of 1980s, not even 1980s, but it's on the verge of insane speed. And you obviously have to lift. It doesn't feel like a plate race really when you're racing out there, just because of the way you have to race it. But it's a handful. I'll tell you that. I've done it quite a few times on iRacing. It's not easy. So, credit to all those guys who finished up front in the first race of the season. It wasn't easy. It wasn't like a typical plate race where you could ride around and then, 10 to go. I'm going to go to the front and make my move. Like, you had to drive those cars the entire race. Now with the next gen, obviously you're looking at more of a modern day super speedway race. You have the side drafting physics. You have the tapered spacer. You have all that stuff, on the car. It's the most realistic package you'll get in any form of sim racing. So it'll be like a typical cup race. You'll see, you'll see a couple big wrecks probably. You'll see a big pack of 30, 40 cars. You'll be able to ride around at the back if you want, and you'll be able to try to make a move at the end. But, it'll be a completely different race. Like, you're not going to see these guys. I mean, it could be a handful, but it's not going to be anything compared to what a COT is. So if you're looking for anything like what the first race of the season is, I'm expecting it to be a little bit calmer. It's obviously still going to be wild with the points battle and everybody who's looking to get a win and get in scenario. But yeah, it's going to be more like a typical cup race you'll see on any given Sunday, really, at a Daytona or Talladega. So really, if any, like I said, anybody's looking for a COT, if you want to go driving on iRacing and take my word for it, it's not easy. But the next gen, it's the cup car, so it'll be a fun race, but it's not as difficult at all as the COT is. So.
Well, we're going to have to wait till next year for that.
Yeah.
Because Monday Night Racing is taking off December 26th, that Monday after Christmas, to celebrate with family for that time. So this next race is going to be January 2nd. But be sure to catch the Monday Night Racing review Tuesday nights on frontstretch.com. The next race, next gen, January 2nd, be here at 7:45 Eastern Time. You can watch the race at Podium Sports on Twitch or on Frontstretch YouTube's page. And from everyone here, from Brandon Hoff and Jared Haas, have a great night, and we will see you at Talladega.
See you guys.